What's up guys, Maelstrom here. If you enjoyed, then like and subscribe and leave a comment for the next part so I can keep on making these awesome videos for you guys. Kurenai and rest of her rookie Sannin team had just finished their lunch. When they arrived at the place, Kiba and Shino thought that the food in a place like this wouldn't be considered much of a food. No wonder they have never been to this place. This place was for people like civilians or your average chunin. Their clan would never let them eat food from a filthy place like this. But now they really didn't have a choice in the matter. They had to eat here since they did take their sensei up on the invitation without knowing exactly what kind of place they were being escorted. Hinata for her part had been to this place before and ate with one of her academy friend when she was really young. And after being introduced to this place, she would come here at least 2-3 times a month. So her opinion of this place wasn't as atrocious as her teammates if she knew what they were thinking. After having their first taste of ramen, Kiba and Shino immediately changed their mind about this place and the food. They never tasted ramen that was anywhere near as good as this. 5 minutes of almost inhaling the ramen, Kiba finished and looked at their sensei who was halfway through her bowl of ramen. His other teammates were about to finish theirs. After finishing, all three genin thanked the old man and looked at their sensei, Arigato sensei, for the meal. Hinata thanked Kiba and Shino merely nodded their appreciation, which was gladly accepted by Kurenai. You three better get going, but before you go don't forget our meeting at the tower, Kurenai said, earning nod from the three. We won't forget it sensei, we'll be getting our first mission so of course we'll be there, proclaimed Kiba. He was really excited about his first mission and was hoping that it associated with having to fight with a foreign ninja. If we are done here I will be taking my leave, Shino said as he started to part ways with his soon-to-be comrades. Kiba stared at Shino as he was leaving, then turned to Hinata and asked, "Hey Hinata-chan, do you mind if I walk you home?" Hinata blushed when he asked and started to poke her fingers together. "Sure Kiba-kun." Hinata stuttered softly. She had feeling for Kiba for quite some time, but never was able to say anything about it. Kiba for his part had feelings for Hinata since he was 14. He was quite happy when she agreed to his walking her home. "Bye sensei," Hinata said as she and Kiba started to walk toward the Hiwaga complex. Kurenai waved her hand at them and sighed. "Ah, young love," she said out loud to no one in particular. "Speaking of young love, do I still have the time to make up the other half of our date?" whispered someone in Kurenai's ear, serving to startle her. She hadn't even sensed the person sneaking up behind her and she cursed herself for that. She slowly looked back to see who it was, even though she could have guessed who it was by what was whispered to her. She fought off a blush that was creeping up to her face as she turned to the figure. She couldn't hold of the blush when she saw the figure. The sunlight was shining off the person, making him look like some sort of angle without wings. "And Naruto-sama, what are you doing here?" said Kurenai, going into Hinata mode. Naruto couldn't exactly figure out why she was stuttering. Even if he was considered a genius among shinobi, he was still sort of dense when it came to women. Putting on his best smile, Naruto asked, "What, am I not allowed to come here?" in a joking manner. Kurenai mentally slapped herself for asking him that. Now he's going to think that she's just another stupid female, or worse, a fangirl. "You know, you still haven't answered my question," stated the young blonde as he locked eyes with the beautiful Kunoichi in front of him. Kurenai was dumbfounded. She forgot what Naruto asked her. Sweat started to form on her forehead as panic kicked in. She then quickly came up with an idea to make him ask again. "Ahem. Well, if you ask me again I might answer the question right now. If not you'll have to wait, Naruto-sama," Kurenai said coolly. Naruto raised his eyebrows at this. Why would she ask him to repeat the question unless she forgot about it? Thought Naruto with a chuckle. Kurenai gave him a questioning look. "What's so funny? You forgot my question, didn't you?" asked Naruto with a sly smirk. Kurenai blushed out of embarrassment and gave him a slow hesitant nod while averting her eyes in embarrassment. "Well then, I will ask again. Is there still time to make up the other half of our date?" reiterated the blonde with his infamous foxy grin. "What do you have in mind, Naruto-sama?" Kurenai said with a blush yet again. "Damn it, I have to stop with this blushing or my head is going to explode," she thought. Naruto smiled at her question and took that as a yes, but decided to check with her anyway so he was not mistaken in his perception. "So I take that as a yes?" Getting a nod, he continued. "I was hoping we could maybe go for a walk in a park, so if you would lead the way to your favorite one." Kurenai stiffened a little, but then nodded as she started toward Konoha's Eastern Park. In her opinion it was a pretty good idea since she finds these kind of things romantic and she wanted to date a romantic guy who would occasionally do things like that. not just try to have his way with her. She hoped to Kami that Naruto wasn't like that. She was starting to have feelings for him and she didn't want her heart broken when she finally decided to let someone in. Naruto was looking up at the sky. It was a bright sunny day and not a single cloud up in the sky. It was a perfect day for this date and he was hoping to take her to his special place to watch the sunset with the red-eyed beauty. After arriving at their destination, Naruto found an empty bench and directed Kurenai toward it. They both took a seat and looked up at the sky. Naruto was trying to think of a way to start the conversation between them and was about to say something when Kurenai interrupted him. "You know, I used to come to this place with my parents when I was young," Kurenai said with a glazed look on her eyes as she started reminiscing. "They would bring me to this place when they were off from missions. I would play with my parents and we'd spend half of the day in this place enjoying ourselves. One day this massive amount of chakra was felt throughout Konoha. My parents then told me to go home and wait so they could investigate where that malicious chakra was coming from. I waited and waited, but they never came back and a day later Kiwabe attacked Konoha. From that day on I never came to the park since it brought back so many memories." Kurenai was on the verge of tears as she spoke her mind for the first time in many years, since the only person who knew about this was her best friend Anko. Naruto was listening to every detail of her life that was being spoken to him. He felt like an idiot for bringing her here. He should have asked her if she wanted to come here, and now he was making her cry. He didn't really want to see her cry since he didn't know what to do on a situation like this, so he did the only thing he knew that might handle this delicate situation. He hugged her to his chest. Kurenai first stiffened when she felt Naruto hug her, but then started to relax into and let out a cry, serving to make Naruto feel even worse. He was trying to make her feel better, not make her cry. So for the next 20 minutes Naruto held Kurenai as she cried to her heart's content. Some of the couples in the park were giving Naruto a dirty glare for making a lady cry. Naruto just gave them a sheepish grin, making the glares even worse. He decided to ignore it and tried his best on comforting Kurenai. After calming down she got out of Naruto's embrace and wiped her tears. "I am sorry Naruto-sama for breaking down on you like that." Kurenai apologized while still wiping tears away from her beautiful red eyes. "You shouldn't be the one apologizing, Kurenai-san. It was my fault for bringing you here and for not considering your feelings," interjected Naruto with a small smile. Kurenai shook her head at this. "It's not your fault," stated Kurenai. "I decided to come here. I just have to leave the past behind me sometime, so I can start anew, and I guess today is as good as ever." Naruto stood up, confusing Kurenai. He then took hold of her hand then said, "Since this place is depressing, why don't I take you to one of my favorite places in Konoha?" As he dragged her toward the Hokage monument. The sun would set in about 20 minutes and it took them a little over 10 minutes to get to the top. Naruto didn't want to shunshin up there since he wanted to show Kurenai what it was like inside the monument. For Kurenai it was quiet and experience. She had never even been on top of the monument, let alone inside it. Inside was filled with different kinds of colored light. She couldn't wait to see how the view was like from something above everything else in Konoha. When both reached the top, they were hit by a sudden gust of wind, making Kurenai recoil fright. She guessed it was most likely due to the difference in height. She closed her eyes to enjoy the fresh air and it felt great. Naruto couldn't help but admire her beauty. She looked even more beautiful than she did before. Her peaceful face looked like the face of an angel and he couldn't help feeling sad that he might not be able to make her happy or be happy with her. How is anyone supposed to make someone happy when they are the primary cause of said person's sadness? Naruto shook his head to make these thoughts go away. He didn't need to worry about that right now. Only time will tell what will happen in the future and all he can do is hope. Seeing Kurenai's eyes still closed, Naruto tapped her on the shoulder, making Kurenai open her eyes. She then gave him a confused look, then saw Naruto pointing at something. Her gaze followed his finger and eyes widened at what was in front of her. It was probably the most beautiful scene she had ever seen in her entire life. The sun looked so much bigger, making it look like a giant sea of orange flame. She could also see the rest of Konoha. Most of it was filled with green and pink and people looked like ants from above. She never expected it to be so stunning. It was breathtaking. Amazing, isn't it? Naruto questioned. The only response he got was a nod from Kurenai. Seeing the look on her face, Naruto pretty much guessed that she was speechless. I mean, who wouldn't be when they are looking at exquisite sight? Can we stay here until it's dark? Kurenai asked. She wanted to stay longer and enjoy her time time with Naruto and maybe get to know him better. Naruto gave her a nod, so for the next 30 minutes they enjoyed the view and made small talk in getting to know each other better. Ready to go? Questioned Naruto looking at Kurenai. She looked into his deep blue eyes and answered hi, then stood up, as did Naruto. Both party gathered chakra to their feet to stick to the ground and started running down the Hokage mountain. Naruto had to slow down his pace considerably for Kurenai to keep up. They walked side by side slowly back to Kurenai's apartment. They soon arrived at a 3-story building and Kurenai then gave Naruto a quick hug, leaving a blushing Naruto and slightly flushed Kurenai. Arigato Naruto-sama for tonight. Cautiously yet quickly to prevent a stutter, Naruto frowned and said, I did request you not to call me Sama, right? Agumon, how does Naruto-san sound? Kurenai rapidly apologized. Naruto gave her sly smirk, that's fine or now, and then winked at her, making her blush at the meaning. This was a great night. Oh, and don't bother looking for me for a while. I won't be in Konoha for a few weeks, summed up Naruto with a bow as he watched Kurenai nod to try and hide her blush and quickly opened the door to her building, then looked back at Naruto and said a quick goodnight. As he watched Kurenai walk up the stairs entering her home, he enjoyed the view before he departed. Once he arrived home, he undressed and decided to take a nap, so he crashed onto the bed, falling into a completely dreamless sleep. Hour later with Kurenai. Kurenai just got out of the shower with a towel wrapped around her body, barely covering her assets, before opening the bathroom door and stepping into the hallway when she suddenly felt a high Junin level chakra signature in bedroom. She tensed a little but soon relaxed when it felt familiar. Walking into her room, she saw her best friend Anko sitting on the bed eating dango. Anko, I thought you were on a mission? Curiously asked the wet red-eyed beauty as she approached her dresser. It was an easy mission, stated Anko as she was stuffing her mouth with dango. So I finished early and decided to crash at your place, said the sultry Kunoichi with a mischievous glint in her eye before asking, so anyway, how was your day? It went pretty good, Kurenai said while rummaging through her clothes. Kakashi's and my team passed. After that Naruto and I went on the other half of our date, so overall it was a great day. Anko narrowed her eyes. So are you considering going on another date with what may have been jealousy? Yep, and if everything works out, I might even consider giving him my virginity on our 4th date, said Kurenai with a joking tone, though only the last part. Anko felt a little sad when Kurenai said she is going on another date. She should be happy that her friend might have finally found happiness, and yet she couldn't help but feel like she'll be thrown out of Kurenai's life when it happens. Then she would have no one left and would have to go back to being lonely. Deciding to go back to her happy-go-lucky self, Anko put her dango on the table beside the bed and stood up. She then walked over to Kurenai and said with a smile, don't do anything with him that I wouldn't. And what might that be? Kurenai retorted back with a smirk, but there was no response as Anko disappeared. 8 a.m. next morning. Teams 7 and 8 with their sensei were standing in front of the Hokage for the first mission of their ninja career. Beside the Hokage were his assistant and the former academy teacher of the new Genin Umino Iruka, who was sorting out mission profiles before he gave the Hokage a file containing several D-ranked missions. The Hokage then went through a bunch of lists of missions, which really didn't sound too appealing to the Genin, but considering it was their first mission, some held back their voice to protest. After handing out the mission of the day, Hokage looked at Sasuke with a scowl on his face. Now, to receive your punishment for stealing the forbidden scroll, Sasuke, said the old man with an aggravated voice. He had extra paperwork because of this fool and then had a meeting with the council to decide what kind of punishment the Uchiha should receive. Sarutobi insisted on a meeting with Ibiki, but elders thought it was going too far, so they decided on something less severe. After your team mission, you'll be subjected to an extra D-ranked mission every day by yourself for the next 2 months. Sasuke inwardly smirked after hearing about his punishment. He knew there was no way they would punish him. If this is the punishment they give when he stole an important item from the Hokage's office, then he wondered what kind of punishment they would give him if he killed someone loyal to Konoha, especially that Uzumaki fool. A smile formed on his lips, but it was soon wiped off when Hokage's next words reached his ears. Without pace, Sarutobi finished with a smile while sucking on his pipe. Sasuke maintained his neutral face for a few seconds until it turned to that of anger. What? You can't do that! Sasuke's furious shout resonated through the room before the temperature in the room dropped few degrees when Sarutobi unleashed portion of his killer intent on Sasuke, making it hard for him to breathe. Everyone was silent throughout the whole ordeal. They didn't want to face the wrath of the Hokage of all people. Even Sakura was scared for her Sasuke-kun. This was the Hokage after all, the strongest ninja in the village and one of the strongest in the whole shinobi world. Are you telling me, the Hokage what to do? Growled Sarutobi, leveling a menacing glare at the arrogant young Uchiha. Oh, Sasuke tried to respond, but never got the words out of his mouth when he found himself pinned to wall by none other than Hate Kakashi. Now you listen to me, Sasuke, and listen carefully. If you are trying to anger the Hokage, then I suggest you stop or you'll regret it. Do you understand me? Kakashi whispered as his cold eyes settled on Sasuke painfully. Sasuke gave him a nod of understanding. Kakashi let him go and told him to apologize to the Hokage. Sasuke reluctantly walked over to Hokage's desk and slightly bowed his head. I am sorry, Hokage-sama, for disrespecting you, he said through gritted teeth. Sarutobi could see that Sasuke didn't mean the apology, but accepted it anyway, not wanting to deal with him. Kurenai and Genin are dismissed, but I would like to discuss something with Kakashi before you go, said the Hokage as he dismissed the young ninja present before him. Kakashi looked at the Genin, who nodded and walked out the office. Looking back at the Hokage, he spoke. What do you need, Hokage-sama? I think you already know what I'm going to ask of you, Kakashi, Sarutobi said, getting straight to the point. Kakashi nodded. You want me to report on Sasuke's mental state from time to time? Is that right, Hokage-sama? Yes, as much as I hate to admit it, there is definitely some damage from Tsukuyomi still left behind. He could snap anytime, so I want you to keep him in control, and if that can't be done, then you know what must be done. Is that understood? Said the aged Kage with a grim tone of voice. Hi, Hokage-sama. Kakashi bowed and disappeared in a puff of smoke to join his team on their first mission. With a heavy sigh, Sarutobi turned back to the window he had been staring out before, his eyes looking over the rooftops to the mountains beyond them, hoping that someone will take his job soon. Harper Newton got this from some dude. A few weeks had gone by and Naruto was currently in Suna, investigating what was going on with their loyal allies. So far the only thing he could figure out was that Suna was forming an alliance with the newly formed Sound Village and some other interesting things. Their self-proclaimed Otokage came few days ago to finalize it. Naruto was forced to look from afar and had yet to see his face clearly, but from what he did see, the Otokage looked around the age of 20, not old for a Kage. But then again, Naruto himself was given the title of a Sannin at the age of 12, and so it wasn't much of a big deal. Because of the Kage's appearance in Suna, he had to dismiss his informant who would occasionally come and inform him about any changes in situation. He remembered the first time he met her in Suna a week ago and flashback. Naruto was currently taking a stroll through the crowded street of Suna. The sights were quite nice, and he didn't get any glares from civilian when he walked by, unlike Konoha. He also didn't have any rabid fangirls chasing him to take his virginity. The reason for latter was due to the genjutsu he placed on himself. He was pretty sure that anyone of the village's Junin or other ninja who watched the bingo books would recognize him after first glance. It's not every day you see a blonde-haired S-ranked shinobi. And to top that off, he looked like the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, who is dead. So, to avoid all that, he put one of his best genjutsu to conceal his appearance. Luckily for him, there weren't many genjutsu masters just walking around Suna since they were quite rare here, so he had yet to be discovered. He suddenly felt a slightly familiar chakra signature following him. While masking his chakra level to that of an academy student, he was impressed. The last time he met this person was about a year ago. At the time, this person was only at the level of a regular Konoha Chunin. Now though, she might be able to take on a low to mid-level Junin and win. She's getting pretty good, he thought with a smile as he walked toward an alley. He checked around the area to see if any shinobi were close and found none, then nods his head and suddenly she appears in front of him, making sure to keep her distance in order to keep it safe for the both of them. Naruto-sama greeted the women with raspy feminine voice. She looked around her 20s with slender and toned body under the impa-like clothes and black boots. Over that was a Chunin flak jacket made for Suna shinobi and a forehead protector over her left bicep. Her face was covered with a mask to not give away her identity, though that wasn't the case with Naruto since he already saw her long ago. Long strands of silky chocolate brown hair escaping from the neat coronet of braids wrapped around her head to frame her face with a bang just above her left eye. She was quite beautiful under that mask of her, and he figured she had probably grown even more beautiful since the last time they had met. Aheo Kumiko-san, been a long time, hasn't it?" Naruto cheerfully greeted. She was confused as to how he could recognize her, let alone remember her name. What she didn't know was that he could instantly recognize anyone by chakra signature, and he had good memory. Getting out of her confusion, she responded with an unsure "Hi." Naruto's visage had gone from cheerful to serious in a matter of seconds. "Anything worthy enough to report?" Naruto asked, earning a nod out of his spy. "Hi Naruto-sama. It seems the Otoukage is coming to finalize their alliance. He should be here in a few days with an Anbu platoon." The Anbu from Konoha seemed to be helping the Oto Nin get out of Suna while they stay behind and cover Oto's tracks. The same Anbu also have been spotted around Rice country, usually let inside the village by a couple of Chunin. According to my sources, they seem to be planning something big, but haven't figured out what that is. "I'm sorry," Kimiko elaborated. Naruto waved his hands in front of his face, motioning that it was fine. He really didn't think she would be able to figure out everything. It's also hard to spy when there are Konoha Anbu around for some reason, and he will find out. "Do you know why Suna would ally with Oto without letting Konoha know?" She caught her breath and nodded. "Do you know about the one-tailed Shukaku?" A nod from Naruto gave her the answer, so she continued. "You see, Shukaku was said to originate here, having been created from the spirit of a dead monk who was trapped in a tea kettle. With its military forces being scaled down by the Land of Wind's feudal lord, the Yondaime Kozikage realized that they had to increase the quality of each ninja to maintain a strong enough military force. So he got the elder named Chio to seal the demon inside his son when his wife was in labor, causing her to die from the demon feasting on her soul." Naruto shuddered when he heard her say that. He hoped his mother didn't have to suffer like that. As more time passed, the Lord started commissioning Konoha with requests he should have been making to Tsunagakure. On top of that, he began cutting back on Tsunagakure's budget. The Kozikage realized that if he didn't act quickly, Tsunagakure would be in danger of disappearing. So I guess that is why he joined forces with Otogakure. As she was talking, Naruto's eyes widened when realization hit him. So they want to destroy Konoha in hopes that without them in the way, the Lord would have to re-establish the Suna military forces after seeing their power. Naruto interrupted. "Hi, that would be our best bet," Kimiko answered as she saw Naruto clenching his fist and tense his body, causing her to flinch back a bit. "There is no way I am going to let that happen," he thought with full of determination. "I think you did more than enough. For now I want you to lay low until the Otoukage leaves. Do what you usually would do and maybe go on missions. Remember not to do anything unusual," suggested Naruto with a serious face. He really didn't want anything to happen to his informant, not just because they work for him, but also because he considers them precious comrades. He also took an oath to protect them if needed. It was part of their contract for working as his spy. So basically, you screw with his spies, you die. Painfully, Kimiko nodded and waited to say something else, but didn't know if she should, since she didn't want to give unreliable information. It was just a hunch, and her instinct as a girl that gave her the impression a great force of perversion was out there. "Ano, I think Jiraiya-sama is currently in Suna," she said, making Naruto suddenly more interested than he was a moment ago. "I've seen a white mane of hair beside the bathhouse. I am not sure if it's him, but I feel something perverse in the air." Finished with a nervous smile as her face turned slight pink hue from embarrassment. Naruto chuckled after hearing about Sannin. He was pretty sure it was him. If she saw the hair anywhere near the bathhouse, then he felt something or someone. Naruto started to vanish out of sight as he said, "Leave. Someone is nearby." Voice echoing throughout the alley. Kimiko didn't waste any time getting the hell out of there. A few seconds later, a shinobi with a Junin flak jacket appeared in the alley, looking around to see if anyone was there. "That's weird. I was pretty sure someone was here," he thought. Then he looked at the time and single eye widened. "Kuso, Temari is going to kill me if I am late again for the team meeting," he mumbled under his breath as he ran hastily. And flashback. Since then, Naruto would sometimes look for Sannin around the bathhouse. He never even caught a glimpse of the Toad Sage though. Jiraiya was either hiding very well, or maybe he wasn't even in Suna anymore. That is, if he was ever in the village to begin with. He was getting sick of looking for Jiraiya though, so today he decided to go all out in his searching. There was no way Jiraiya could avoid being spotted by him. So for the next 3 hours, Naruto looked around for Jiraiya and even tried to locate his chakra signature, but couldn't find it. "Now where would I be if I was a pervert?" Naruto said out loud, drawing attention from the civilians who looked at his like he is crazy. A blush found its way to Naruto's face as he gave a nervous chuckle while scratching the back of his head. Something clicked in his head. He then went over to a storekeeper and asked, Ano, do you know where the brothel is? He couldn't believe that he was actually asking someone the location of this place. The man gave Naruto a perverted giggle and pointed toward the place. Naruto sighed and thought, are all men perverts? As he was slowly walking toward the place. When Naruto got there, he was surprised at what he saw. The exterior of the place was really elegant for a place where guys comes and have sex. He would have thought this place would look dirty and most definitely be in a bad neighborhood. But here it was, probably one of the cleanest places in Suna. He walked inside the place and saw a couple of men standing in line in front of a lady who was handing out a paper with numbers on it. He swiftly skimmed through the guys and saw the person he was looking for. Naruto walked up to the figure, raising his right hand and bringing it down on Jiraiya's head. The famous pervert was so caught up in his own perverted world that he didn't even sense Naruto until he was hit. Jiraiya yelped from the sudden pain brought upon his head. An angry look appeared on his face as he looked to his right to see an unknown person standing beside him with one hand raised. Jiraiya quickly stepped back and studied the person in front of him. He seemed to hiding under some kind of genjutsu. Jiraiya would have tried to dispel it, but he was too close to the stranger and he needed to be on guard. Who are you? Jiraiya growled in a demanding voice. There was no way in hell he was going to let this person go without some sort of punishment for screwing up his fun. Naruto smiled. Jiraiya didn't seem to be the type who would get angry so easily. How he loved pushing Jiraiya's buttons. First, that was for wasting my time looking for you. Second, don't you remember me? Sannin? Naruto said with a pout. Sannin? Jiraiya questioned himself. The first person to give this nickname was Naruto. He sure wouldn't tell anyone else about that name, so this person must be Naruto. Jiraiya stuttered. What would Naruto be doing in Suna? The nod from Naruto answered Jiraiya's question. He then motioned Jiraiya to follow him. Jiraiya decided to go with him for now, even though he was reluctant at first. When they got outside, Naruto looked around to see if anyone was around. Then he placed a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder and flamed Shunshin to his hotel room. When they arrived in Naruto's room, Jiraiya quickly took a hold of Naruto's shoulder and begged, "You've got to teach me how to do that, please see with puppy-eye jutsu. Oh ho, ladies will be all over me if I learn that," he thought with a perverted smile while looking at Naruto. Naruto was scared out of his wits. It was one thing if a girl did the jutsu, but to see a grown man to do something like that was plain scary. Naruto swatted Jiraiya's hands off his shoulder. "Sorry, it's one of the perks of having Phoenix as your summon." Naruto apologized. Jiraiya's heart was crushed. All of the plans he was making went down the drain, so he sped toward the corner of the room and started brooding while making circles on the floor. At the moment he wished he were the one with the Phoenix summon instead of those ugly overgrown toads. Naruto's sweat dropped. That Baka seems to have forgotten that Naruto brought him here to talk, not brood. Ahem. Naruto cleared his throat, getting Jiraiya's attention. Naruto dropped the genjutsu as Jiraiya looked at him. Jiraiya's eyes widened when he saw what Naruto looked like. Naruto looked exactly like his father and his former student Minato. The resemblance was uncanny and it made it even more so with cape Naruto was wearing. If he didn't already know that this was the Sannin, then he would have mistaken Naruto for the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha. At that moment, the old toad sage couldn't believe how stupid some people are, not noticing the connection between the two. Shaken from his internal musings. "What is it you need to talk to me about, Naruto?" the pervert asked while walking over to the queen-size bed before sitting roughly upon it to relax. Naruto's gaze followed Jiraiya as he was collecting his thoughts. "I need to talk to you about this alliance with Suna and this newly formed village Odo," Naruto replied. Jiraiya gave an unnoticeable wince, before falling quiet to think for a minute. He sighed when done thinking, then asked, "Tell me what you know and I will continue from there." Naruto smiled after hearing that. He might not have to go around looking for information after all. Let's see. I know that there are Anbu from Konoha present in Suna, helping the Odo Nin. The reason for the alliance is due to the one country's lord cutting their military budget. Also I think both village are planning an invasion on Konoha, Naruto said with a serious look on his face while Jiraiya was processing the information. He knew all about that, except for the invasion part. He didn't think that far ahead. Besides, it's not like he had a spy in Suna. He didn't think he would need one considering Konoha and Suna were allies. "Seems to me you know almost everything, so what do you want to know from me?" Jiraiya asked with an impassive look. "Do you know anything about those Anbu and the Otukage?" said Naruto rather straightforward and right to the point. Jiraiya shifted in his seat after hearing the latter. Then he chuckled, earning a confused look. He decided to taunt Naruto, so he said, You know for a Sannin, you sure don't know much about Konoha's military. Are you going to give me an answer or should I beat it out of you? And Yaok, no I can. Naruto threatened as a tick mark appeared on his forehead. Jiraiya waved his hand offensively in front of him. Ma, no need to get violent. Then mumbled something about teenager these days always resorting to violence instead of bribery. Straightening himself, Jiraiya said, those are not one of your regular Anbu units Gaki. They are called Ni, created by Danzo. He trained and conditioned children intensively from a very young age. This was done to completely eliminate emotions and enable its members to complete missions without being held back. They are like machines, no emotion and no attachment to anyone. They are also loyal only to Danzo. Jiraiya took a deep breath before continuing. As for the cage, it is my ex-teammate Orochimaru. The last part was said with so much venom it almost made Naruto take a step back. Naruto was startled at what he heard. What? That's preposterous, he said, raising his voice. He doesn't even look like he's 20, he stated, causing Jiraiya to sigh. He really didn't want to go into details, but it seems like he has to. Naruto, I have been keeping tabs on him for quite some time, and believe me when I say this, it's Orochimaru. He created this jutsu that grants him immortality. He will never grow old or die of a natural cause. Jiraiya finished. They both stayed quiet for a while. In Naruto's case, he was actually processing all the information Jiraiya just gave him. He had to admit, it was more than he expected to learn. So did you lose your virginity yet? The pervert asked, breaking the silence. Naruto flushed at the question. It seems Jiraiya went back to being a pervert. Not that he should be surprised, this is the legendary author of the world-famous Icha series. Why would you ask that? He stuttered, making Jiraiya smile. I see you haven't. Old perverted sage stated with a frown. How could his sensei not make such a fine shinobi a pervert? It was a crime not to do so. Well, if I were in your body, I would have already deflowered every woman in Fire Nation, Jiraiya said with a perverted giggle. Naruto shuddered at the thought of Jiraiya in his body. Well, I am glad you are not, mumbled Naruto while he continued to shudder at the images rapidly going through his head. Jiraiya got up from the bed and walked over to door, then looked over to Naruto. I will be leaving to my holy sanctuary now, if there is nothing else. But before I go, he went through his pocket and brought out 3 copies of Icha and handed it to Naruto. Give one to Kakashi-san and Sarutobi-sensei. You should keep the other one for inspiration when you finally decide to lose it. Jiraiya finished with a perverse giggle. Naruto gave him a disgusted look, but decided to keep it anyway. Who knows? Maybe it could come in handy. Then he imagined him and Kurenai in a compromising position. Ah, what the hell am I thinking? Naruto thought as he tried to shake away the mental images, even if he did really like them. The perverted hermit chuckled when he saw the small drip of blood fall from Naruto's nose. It seems the kid did have a perverted side after all. Which means there's still a chance to convert him to the ways of the super pervert, thought the old pervert. He then heard Naruto mumble whatever as he walked out of the room, followed by thud indicating the door closing. At night, after talking with Jiraiya, Naruto decided to leave for Konoha as soon as possible. So he got some good sleep and took off toward Konoha during the night. After 10 minutes of running at speed that could only be matched by a cage, he stopped when he heard a woman scream for help. The voice sounded familiar, so he took off toward it, and what he saw made his blood boil. Here was at least 15 Anbu about to try and take advantage of a young woman, and worst of all, she happens to be his informant, Kamiko. She was sporting some bruises and had small cuts all over her body. Her clothes were ripped, though they still covered most of her body. She was pinned down by an Anbu who was trying hard to undress her. Kamiko was screaming at the top of her lungs, trying to get anyone to help her. Not willing to stand another minute of these fools trying to desecrate him informant, Naruto directed a considerable amount of killing intent at the group, freezing them in place. Their bodies froze completely, trembling in fear from the unreal killer intent. Even the supposedly unemotional Eni were trembling slightly. To them, it felt as if their deaths were already guaranteed. Some of the weaker Anbu dropped to their knees as it took every little bit of their willpower not to just slit their own throats. For those who were able to make even the slightest movement slowly turned their head toward the source of the killer intent. Kamiko slightly brought her head up to see what made her attackers stop, and saw someone through her blurry vision that made her sigh in relief. She only saw blonde hair and a white trench coat, and judging by the looks on the Odo nin's faces, It had to be someone really powerful, and at the time only one person came to her mind. "Naruto-sama," she muttered. "Is that you?" Before she slipped into unconsciousness. Oh. All eyes landed on a figure that was standing about 100 feet away from them. Half of his face seemed to be shadowed by his red and blonde locks. His eyes, however, remained visible. His cold blue eyes set in an expression that promised excruciating pain and a not-so-sudden death. They were the eyes of a shinobi who had killed countless people, the eyes of someone who could swat them like insects. The monstrous killing intent that had them frozen in fear was coming from those icy blue orbs. All of a sudden sand started to levitate off the ground and wind began to blow as huge amount of visible purple chakra swirled violently around the figure, shooting nearly 50 feet in the air, taking the form of a phoenix. He gave out a mighty war cry before the chakra phoenix settled down and started to circle around him like a tornado. The whole desert began to shake and the wind mixed with sand turned into a raging sandstorm. The amount of chakra swirling around the figure was suffocating. There was enough raw chakra to dwarf even several cages. Such power. The Anbu captain gasped in his mind while covering his eyes from the oncoming dusts. Feels like one wrong move, and we're dead. What the hell is he? Earlier, Kimiko was walking through the empty street of Suna while chewing on a stick of Pocky. Suddenly she saw movements out of the corner of her eyes. Looking closely, she saw a group of Anbu speeding toward the valley leading outside of Suna. Deciding to find out what they were up to, she followed them, remembering to keep her distance. After several minutes of traveling, she saw one of them look back, as if he sensed her. While the ninja turned, she caught a glimpse of the tattoo on his arm. It was a musical note, wrapped around by what appeared to be a snake. She quickly hid behind one of the buildings. The nin, not seeing anything, followed his team, until they came to a stop as soon as check-in station at the end of the narrow passageway into the village. They slowly walked up to the chunin who was supposed to guarding the gate, but instead he was taking a nap. "Boy, wake up and sign our papers," demanded one of the Anbu, stepping forward. Seeing as he was the one to come forward, Kimiko guessed he was the leader of the group. Not getting a response, he sent some killer intent toward the foolish ninja, waking him up from his comfortable sleep. He looked around to see what woke him up and saw a platoon of Anbu staring at him through their masks. Quickly straightening himself, he greeted them with a smile. "Signed the damn papers, chunin," captain of the group repeated with an agitated voice while leveling a menacing glare at the Suna nin. The Suna chunin, not catching the annoyance in the captain's voice, asked, "So you guys are going back?" But before he could finish his sentence, the poor man was subjected to the full extent of the captain's killing intent. "Now," the Oto Anbu captain hissed at the chunin, who shook his head frantically in fear of his life. After quickly signing the traveling papers, he bowed his head, showing some respect to the shinobi who could kill him in a matter of seconds. Kimiko felt disgusted when she saw the scene unfold in the entrance. Those Oto ninjas didn't seem to have any respect for anyone, even though that guy was an idiot for napping while on duty. And what disgusted her more was that chunin who bowed his head. Those filth. Shaken out of her musing, she started following them for about 25 to 30 minutes. She was really getting annoyed with the stupid sand in this mass desert. Even though she was a Suna shinobi, she never did like the place. It slows down your movement and also makes you use chakra to prevent your feet from being buried. Suna itself wasn't lively. There are barely any trees, and sometimes most people don't even come out of their house in fear of shukaku consuming them in as sand. They couldn't even tell the difference between a child and a demon, though that doesn't matter anymore since Gaara, the son of the Sandaime Kazekage, has already turned into what they always feared. Kimiko being so caught up in her thoughts that she didn't notice 3 of the Anbu replacing themselves with a bunshin while the others kept on going, continuing with their comrades' bunshin to make it less suspicious. All of a sudden Kimiko heard something cutting through the air. Shit, she thought as she narrowly dodged a swipe from someone's blade. Looking around, she saw several Anbu standing in their respective stance with their sword drawn. The leader stepped forward and pointed his blade at her and in a demanding voice said, "Who are you and why are you following us?" Kimiko quickly thought of something believable, then answered, I was on patrol and seeing a squad of another country's Anbu was suspicious, so I decided to check it out." The captain raised an eyebrow at that. If she was a Sunanin, then she should have been aware of the alliance, so there was no reason for them to seem suspicious considering they had been going in and out of Suna for quite some time now. "Are you not aware of our alliance with Suna?" he questioned. "Oh, Odo, yes, I am aware of the alliance, but in the dark I couldn't see clearly, so I assumed that you guys were spies," Kimiko explained while inside she was praying to Kami that they believe her. "I see," the captain said, not believing a single word that came out of her mouth. She also seemed to have avoided giving out her identity, which was his primary question, and he never mentioned that they were from Odo. She knowingly was following them, but why? Then a mischievous thought crossed his mind as a sly smirk appeared on his lips hidden under the mask. "Oh well, while you are here, why don't we show you a good time before you depart from this world, me?" he said as he was slowly approaching her while his subordinates let out perverse giggles. Kimiko stepped back in fear and disgust when she heard him say that. There was no way she was going to let those filthy bastards have their way with her. She would rather be dead. Kimiko had to think of an escape plan, because she could sense more Anbu present in the area, but couldn't locate them as they were spread out, and she needed to get out of this place before they made themselves known. She quickly sped toward one of the openings in their circle, only to have more Anbu pop out of the ground and surround her again. Kimiko didn't like what she saw. These shinobi had her surrounded, and she could now see that there had to have been near 18 Anbu, and those extra 3 she could easily tell were from Konoha. The captain from the side stepped closer toward Kimiko and with perverse smirk said, "Where do you think you are going, Missy? We haven't even begun, let alone be done with you yet." Even though she couldn't see it, Kimiko was sure he was smirking. "You wouldn't want anything to happen to the Alliance, now would you?" Kimiko asked with a frightened look on her face. She was hoping she could convince them not to do what they were suggesting with her bluff. She knew it wouldn't really affect the Alliance, considering she was just a Chunin and the Kazukichi would sacrifice her if it would bring prosperity to Suna. Also the fact that she was actually following them even after knowing they were Odo ninja. But she had to give it a try. Under the mask of the said Anbu, his smile just got bigger when she mentioned that "No one is going to find out about this since you won't live long enough to talk," he finished with a chuckle, sending shiver up her spine. Deciding not to be taunted by this fool, and she said, "As if I would let you lay your filthy hands on me," as she took a defensive stance with the frightened look on her face gone, replaced with determination to do whatever is necessary and do what she can in order to get out of this mess. "If that's how you want to play," Captain said in an amused voice at her stupidity of thinking she could actually beat them. He then snaps his finger. "Oi, new guy, why don't you show us what you got?" he said without taking his eyes off of Kimiko. One of the Anbu from the back nodded his head before quickly darted toward her with the intention of immobilizing her as soon as possible. Kimiko, seeing the Anbu rapidly covering the distance between them, made a Suna Bunshin. Then with a quick Arimi she replaced herself with a Bunshin right before her enemy's kunai came in contact with her. He sped toward her, then thrust the kunai in her shoulder only to have her turn to sand when it came in contact with her. His eyes widened in surprise at not seeing her make a Bunshin and seeing the surprised look on the Anbu's face. In a burst of speed, Kimiko easily got behind him and lodges as kunai at the base of his skull. As the nin dropped to the ground, she said to his lifeless corpse, "That's what you get for underestimating me," with a menacing tone, then spits on him. "Himatsu!" one of the Anbu shouted when he saw the dead Anbu. He clenches his fist, then ran over to the dead Anbu, quickly checking for a pulse and not finding one. He looked over to Kimiko, who moved a few feet away from the corpse when she heard the dead Anbu's name being shouted. She was actually surprised to see this Anbu even be concerned about his comrade's death while others were just standing there and watching everything unfold. "You bitch! You killed my brother!" he screamed before blindly charging her. "So that's why," Kimiko thought, then jumped skyward as she started to do rapid hand seals. "Futen, Diatapa wind release, great breakthrough," she shouted before bringing her hand to her mouth, then blowing a large blast of wind at the ground. Upon impact, an explosion rocked throughout the place, sending sand and debris flying into the air. Some of the Anbu were able to move back before the blast hit the ground, while some were caught in the aftershock of the explosion. Not giving enough time for the masked ninja to retaliate, she followed up with Futen, Rapushu wind release, Gale wind palm. Kimiko sent a strong gust of wind combined with a hail of several kunai she hurled into the gust of wind, increasing its deadliness. Seconds after the performance of the jutsu, 2 screams followed and then stopped as fast as they came. A minute later, dust settled down enough to see through it, and what they saw slightly surprised them. There in the center of what was quite noticeably a fairly large crater was the masked Suna Chunin, and in front of her were 2 dead Anbu impaled with several kunai. The captain growled under his breath when he saw 2 more of his subordinates were dead. It wasn't that he cared, but the fact that he has to fill out more paperwork still remained. He went through his weapon pouch and took out some kunai with small holes in the handle, and with a flick of his wrist, the captain sent them toward Kimiko at an impressive speed. They were narrowly dodged by Kimiko, but a second later her eyes widened when she felt sudden pain in the depths of her ears. Her hands flew to her head, clutching it tightly as she fell to her knees from the pain, and an urge to puke hit her. What the hell was that? She stuttered out, pain evident on her face as her vision started to become blurry and blood trickled down her neck, out of her ears. This brought a smile to the captain's face, since this was the first time he actually used those kunai, considering they were made only a few days before his journey to Suna, and they seemed to work pretty well. Those kunai are called kunai no kaichu melody kunai and are special kunai designed by Orochimaru-sama's best weaponsmith. They emanate constant sound that affects the inner ears, throwing a person off balance, or in your case makes you want to puke. He concluded, then vanished out of sight and appeared next to her, then planted his knee into her gut, following up with a roundhouse to the head, sending her flying a few feet back. Kimiko slowly picked herself up and wobbled back and forth as she couldn't control her legs. The captain walked up to her and grabbed Kimiko by the neck, following up with a punch in the stomach, making her cough out blood. He then slammed her onto the ground hard enough to make an outline of her body and to elicit a scream of pain from Kimiko. He then took out two normal kunai and stabbed one into her right shoulder. Kimiko had to bite her lower lips as not to make a sound, not wanting to give him the pleasure of hearing her scream again. The Odo Ambu captain then removed the mask from her face, and his eyes slightly widened by her beauty. If she were in Odo, she would most likely be the most beautiful woman in the whole village. Most women in Otogakure were dead ugly, so that makes them even more sex-crazed from all the stress building up. Such beauty all going to waste under this mask. Don't worry though, we'll make good use of you, he said with a lecherous chuckle. She will be good release of stress on their way to Odo, but before reaching there they would have to dispose of her. With another kunai in hand, he started to cut her clothes along with nicking her body here and there with it, drawing some blood. Kimiko's eyes widened when he started doing that, and in a shaky voice, "Please don't do this. Anything but this. Please," she begged as tears started pouring from her eyes. Even though she didn't want to beg to anyone, she had no choice in the situation since she still couldn't control her body. A few seconds later she started to get back some control over her body, so struggled against the ninja trying to undress her only to get slapped hard. "Matt, someone help me, help," she screamed on top of her lungs. He slammed his left hand onto her throat when she started to scream, making her gasp for breaths. "Don't struggle and you might enjoy what we are going to do to you. Scream all you want, because no one is gonna hear you in this desert, bitch," he growled, releasing her throat while fumbling with her clothes. Present time in Suna. For the first time everything was going great for the Yondaime Kazekage. The reason for that is because he had just finalized the alliance 2 days ago, though this served to increase the amount paperwork, but it would all be worth it by the end of the Chunin exam that will be held in Konoha. After Konoha is destroyed, the Wind Daimyo will have no choice but to recognize Suna's military power. A smirk appeared on his face as he thought about how Suna will be the greatest of all 5 shinobi nations. Suddenly his body went stiff as immense amount of chakra washed over him. Quickly walking over to the window, looking outside, he saw something that surprised him. Far away in the desert, he saw what looked like a sandstorm with a touch of something purple. What surprised him was that the purple tint was what he guessed to be chakra, swirling around creating the sandstorm. What's more surprising was the fact that only Jinchuriki possesses chakra that's not blue in color. Only this chakra didn't feel malicious, which is usually the case. Looking down on his village, he saw civilian running around in panic. Feeling chakra signatures approaching his office, he turned around to see a squad of Anbu kneeling down in front of him. "Report," Kazekage said in a tone of superiority though with a hint of fear. The Anbu in front raised his head and answered, "There seems to be a massive surge of chakra halfway to the border, and Anbu are going there to investigate as we speak. It seems there is enough chakra to dwarf you and Shukaku combined, Kazekage-sama." The Anbu concluded with respect, not sure if he offended their cage by saying the last part. Kazekage's eyes went wide when he heard the last part. Someone this powerful in their border, and they didn't even sense until few minutes ago. They needed to prepare for an attack, or whatever this thing is will destroy them before they even have then chance to rise among all other shinobi nation. "Did you confirm who or what it is?" the Yondaime Kazekage of Sunagakure asked, and he was rewarded with a shake of head and a no from the Anbu, making him frown. "I see. Take all available Anbu and Junin to search the premise, then report back to me immediately, he said, earning choruses of hi from all the Anbu present in the room before leaving in a swirl of sand. Oh. With Naruto. Naruto disappeared from where he was standing while still releasing killing intent on the group, holding them down. Appearing next to Kimiko, he picks her up, then reappears where he was a second ago. Setting her down, he takes off his coat, then placed it over her body. Looking back at the group, he decreases the amount of killing intent he was releasing, letting some of the Anbu be able to breathe properly. You know, if there are two things that I absolutely detest, it's rapists and traitors. You fools happen to be in one category. For that you shall pay with your life, Naruto stated in monotone, taking a few steps forward. Backing away slightly, the captain of the group dared to ask, "Who the fuck are you?" Trying to not sound as scared as he was inside. "To you, my name is Pit, and you have fallen into something you can never escape from," he said, narrowing his eyes. Putting a hand on Muramubi behind his back, he said, "Now you die." His voice had assumed an almost snake-like hiss to it, furthering his own visage of terror. Naruto then vanished from sight, before faint flashes of orange fire appeared in front of each Anbu simultaneously. The flashes stopped altogether before it appeared once more, taking the shape of the blonde in front of the captain, facing the shocked Anbu captain, who didn't even see Naruto make a single move. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto cleared the blood from his blade before a shower of blood coated the battlefield, and thumps were heard as the entire group of masked Anbu fell, most anticlimactically except for the captain. Per Newton, I got the idea from CH and built it upon that. The masked Anbu captain committed more sins than everyone else in the group, and for that he shall face punishment worse than death. For Naruto had something very special planned for him. The Oto Anbu captain stumbled back for a moment, stuttering out, "What are you?" with fear present in his eyes. Knowing he was up against someone beyond his capabilities, the captain of the dead Anbu tried to swallow something in his mouth. Keyword tried, as he had to throw it up when Naruto practically crushed his windpipe with a chop to the throat. Catching the pill between his fingers, Naruto burst it into flame, then with a sadistic smirk he said, "Suicide pill, huh? Killing you will be too simple. No, I'll send you to a place where you will wish you never touched her," sending shiver down the captain's spine before passing out when Naruto pressed a pressure point in the back of his neck. Naruto decided to leave the bodies as they were, to put fear in the heart of Oto and Suna ninjas. Naruto rolled up his left sleeve before revealing a tattoo in the shape of an orange bird. It covered his whole forearm with its wings in a position like it was about to take off, as its tails was wrapped around Naruto's arm. Biting his thumb, Naruto smeared the blood on the tattoo before sending chakra into the tattoo, and in a poof of red flame, a phoenix big enough for 3 people to ride comfortably appeared with Naruto on top of its beak, who had the Anbu on top of the shoulder. Red feathers with hints of yellow in them surrounded the phoenix's body. The phoenix had pair of green eyes, and on top of its forehead were 6 feathers, which stood upward. Per Newton, I put the tattoo part for those who didn't read chap 1 to 6, though I really hope you did. Green eyes looked upward, focusing on Naruto. "Greetings, Naruto-sama. What can I do for you today?" The phoenix greeted in a soft feminine voice. "Hey Raikujaku, I want you to take this fool." Before finishing, he threw the prisoner off his shoulder and threw him toward his summon, who caught him in its talon to Konoha and also relay a message. Naruto then took a scroll out of his pocket and sent some chakra to a special seal on the scroll, and writing started to appear on the scroll. Stopping the chakra flow, Naruto closed the scroll and tied the strap with Raikujaku's beak. "Head straight for the Hokage Tower, and no matter what, do not hand him or the scroll over to anyone but the Hokage." After explaining everything, Naruto jumped off of Raikujaku and walked over to Kimiko, then gave her a cut across her palm, drawing some blood. Taking a vial of her blood, he walked over to one of the dead Anbu, withdrawing a paintbrush from his pouch. At rapid speed, Naruto started to a seal on his face with Kimiko's blood forming a crude yet effective seal his face, considering he was not in the category of headless Anbu. Pouring the leftover blood in the dead Anbu's mouth, he went through some one-handed seals and slammed his hand on the seal, whispering, "Chishio Hadafuyo in blood body seal," as the seal started to glow when Naruto poured large amount of chakra into it. Standing up, he saw the change in Anbu's body, which took the appearance of his spy Kimiko, and the seal started to disappear into her body. After finishing up his handiwork, he walked over to his unconscious spy and picked her up. Looking up at the sky, he saw no trace of his summon, and suddenly feeling numerous chakra signature heading his way, Naruto disappeared into the wind heading toward his designated destination. Moment later, few minutes after Naruto left, a group of Anbu along with few Junins showed up to the grisly scene of mangled and headless corpses, making everyone think, what the hell could have done something like this? Then proceeded to gather the bodies of their dead allies and surprisingly one of Suna Chunin. After finishing, they decided to look for anything that could help identify the killer. Not finding anything, they left to report to their Kazekage. Hour later with Naruto, he had just gotten out of Suna's border, then proceeded toward Wave Country, which is a small island located off the coast of Fire Country. Naruto didn't want to head toward Konoha, because he needed to take Kimiko somewhere safe. In Konoha there will most likely be spies from Oto, and not to mention Danzo's goons are there. He needed to take care of that traitor soon, or Konoha will be in danger from the inside, which is a far greater of a threat than any other enemy. Oh well, he'll have to take care of that when he gets back to Konoha, but for now he needed to concentrate on the women in his arm. Next morning, Naruto arrived at the outskirt of Wave Country, with Kimiko, who was still unconscious considering Naruto knocked her out last night. The reason for that would be because she was insisting that Naruto lets her down when she woke up last night after thanking him for saving her. Naruto didn't want her to injure herself more, so he simply told her that she should stay where she is with a glare. Even though she quickly shut up, just to annoy the hell out of Naruto, she started to poke him in the chest, which led to Naruto knocking her out. Women are such a hassle, he mumbled to himself as he looked toward Wave from the other side of the river. Shunpo, Naruto whispered before he disappeared with a trail of fire right behind him before it too disappeared into the wind. A second later Naruto appeared in Wave to see a sight he was not really expecting. Wave looked like a rundown town with buildings that seems like it might fall apart any moment. People were walking around wearing ripped clothes and shopkeepers were selling bad food, which were considerably expensive. Even then some people seems to be buying it. I see, the country became impoverished under Gat's control. Naruto thought he got report of Gat taking over Wave from one of his informant, but he didn't think it would be this bad. Closing his eyes, Naruto sent a chakra pulse trying to locate his informant, but his eyes shot open as he felt two fairly large chakra signature, though both combined wouldn't even equal to 1/8 of his power. A smile appeared upon his lips as he disappeared again, only to reappear in front of a 2-floor house with orange roof. This is probably the only house that he saw in Wave that didn't look old. Wanting to surprise the people inside, Naruto completely masked his chakra signature, walking over to the door and softly kicked it since he couldn't choose his hands to knock. Not getting any answer from inside, Naruto kicked it again, this time only slightly harder. A minute later, he heard a woman he guessed might be around her 30s by the sound of her voice call out, "Coming!" Right after a click of the door lock, from the corner of his eyes Naruto saw two people speeding toward him at fast pace from different sides. Quickly making two Kage Bunshin, Naruto held onto the sleeping Kimiko while each Kage Bunshin took out a kunai from their pouch. At lightning speed both disappeared and got behind the speeding figures and pressed kunai around their necks. One figure tensed when she felt a kunai touching his neck. She didn't even see the person move, and whoever it was must be costing Gat large sum of money. This guy had to be one powerful ninja if Kurenai couldn't see him move. She was hoping at least Kakashi might be able to take this guy down since he is stronger of the two, or they are done for. As for Kakashi, he was in similar position as Kurenai, not that he knew since he was planning to attack from the other side, but before he even got within 40 feet of his enemies, a kunai was already present on his throat. Naruto, seeing Kurenai tense, brought his mouth close to Kurenai's ears, making her even tenser. Then he whispered, My, you are a bit jumpy this morning, aren't you, my Kurenai-chan?" Sending shiver down her spine, and a blush rose to her face when she recognized his voice. Naruto slowly moves the kunai from her neck, making sure she wouldn't attack. Kurenai wondered why Naruto was here. He couldn't possibly have a mission here for a month and not take out Gat. She turned around to a smiling Naruto with a peace sign, making her give out a soft giggle. He looked so cute and silly at the times. With Kakashi, you should have known better than to rush into a situation such as this blindly. Kakashi-san, the Kage Bunshin said with lazy voice, pissing Kakashi off. Even though he knew this person was right, he still had no right to degrade Kakashi's intelligence. Who are you? Kakashi growled, earning a chuckle from Naruto. Why don't you find out for yourself? The clone said before he released Kakashi. Seeing his chance, Kakashi swiftly spun around and thrust his kunai to impale this unknown person in the stomach, only for him to fly back from an invisible punch in the face. almost sending him into the water. Naruto rubbed his forehead from Kakashi's stupidity when he saw him sent flying by his clone. He really didn't think Kakashi would be so dense as not to figure who he was just by the sound of his voice. But then again, he really didn't talk to Kakashi, so it was to be expected. "Oi Kakashi no baka," Naruto called out. Kakashi was about to reveal his Sharingan when someone called him an idiot. A tick appeared over his visible eye as he looked toward the voice. The tick disappeared when he saw Konoha's Fenikusu Sannin standing there waving his hand at Kakashi while hugging a woman to his chest. Kakashi sighed in relief. Here is someone who should be able to defeat that guy. "Aheo Naruto-sama, I am kind of in a bind at the moment, so can you help me defeat that person?" Kakashi finished lazily as he pointed toward Naruto's clone, making Naruto's sweat drop. Kakashi blushed from embarrassed when he looked over to his enemy to see another copy of the Sannin. "Oh, never mind," he said with a nervous chuckle, feeling like an idiot. "So, which one of you is the real one?" Kakashi asked while looking between the clone and Naruto. Naruto was about to answer when he saw Kurenai appear from the side of the house with his clone beside her. When Kurenai walked in front of the house, she saw Kakashi talking to Naruto, who had a woman hugged to his chest. She felt a pang of jealousy hit her as she saw the young woman snuggling into her man's chest. Then remembered that the one with her will most likely be the real or the one behind Kakashi. She then heard Kakashi asked who the real Naruto was and was hoping it would be the one with her. To answer that question, Naruto dispelled both clones simultaneously, making Kurenai ball her fist. "That bastard. One date and he is already cheating on me," she thought with anger present on her face. Taking a few deep breaths, "Okay, think this through. She seems to be unconscious, so maybe he is trying to help her," she thought while trying to analyze the situation and trying to calm herself. "Oh no, Naruto-san, who is that?" she asked while pointing toward the woman Naruto was holding. Naruto looked at Kurenai and saw slight anger present on her face, so he carefully picked his next words not to make her angrier. "Ah, she is my old informant from Suna. A couple squads of Oto Ambu attacked her with unsavory thoughts in mind. I happened to have been leaving Suna at that time and noticed, then killed them all and brought her here," expounded Naruto in a shaky voice, praying he wouldn't have to face her wrath, since the old saying goes, "Hell hath no fury as a woman scorned." Kakashi and Kurenai went wide-eyed when they heard that he killed couple squads of Ambu. But then again, they shouldn't be surprising at all. "I would love to stand here and chat all day, but my friend here is in need of rest and a bit of first aid," he said in a serious tone, getting nods from both Junin as they led him into the house. From inside the house, all the Genins were wide-eyed when they saw Naruto take on both of their senseis at the same time and still came out victorious. It wasn't much of a match considering Kakashi and Kurenai lost in a blink of an eye, though they couldn't figure out how those clones actually held the kunai, since suspension was supposed to be only illusion. Sasuke was seething when he saw the same technique that he still couldn't master in use. Every time he would summon a clone, it would be like a paralyzed person on the floor trying to crawl while calling for help, and the highest he could make is 2 those before he passes out from chakra exhaustion. What pissed him off was this second-rate shinobi was using the jutsu to its full potential while he couldn't. Sakura was admiring her Sasuke-kun's beauty when she saw anger on his face, and immediately she knew it was because of that monster. "Why the hell is he even here?" To comfort her beloved, she said, "You are the best Sasuke-kun. I mean, so what if he looks strong? You could beat him if you really wanted to." "I am pretty sure Kakashi-sensei was going easy on him. There is no way he could defeat both our senseis like that," she finished in a caring voice. Actually getting Sasuke out of brooding, he decided not to put her down right now, since that actually made him feel better. "Sure, I can't beat that fake Sannin yet, but once I gain my Sharingan, I'll just steal his jutsu and make him bow to his superior before he," thought Sasuke with a blush, making Sakura squeal, thinking her Sasuke-kun was blushing because of her. "Hey, why are they bringing him into the house?" asked a beautiful woman around her 30s with slight panic present in her voice. She had waist-length black hair adding to her beauty. All the Genins looked at her and Kiba answered, "Don't worry, Tsunami-san. He is a Konoha ninja, and besides, even if he was an enemy, I would protect you with my life," he boisterously said, trying to assure her she's safe with him around, completely missing the hurt look in a certain Hyuga's lavender eyes. Tsunami was dumbfounded. She couldn't tell if the filthy mutt was actually hitting on her or would really give his life for her, but she nodded anyway and walked over to the door to open for the oncoming people. Kiba smiled when he saw her nod, thinking that he might get some before leaving Wave. Even though he was in a relationship with Hinata for about a month, She still didn't want to go all the way, which pissed him off, but he was sure he could get her soon enough, and before that he needed to try and do Tsunami. That woman is just downright hot. Per Newton, I am pretty sure all the guys would agree with that, because she is hot. Tsunami opened the door and locks eyes with the tall blonde sparkling blue eyes. She was caught into the deep blue eyes for a couple of seconds until, ahem, Kurenai cleared her throat while glaring at the woman. Tsunami gasped and looks away with a blush adorning her face before she stuttered out, "WW, welcome to my home." Getting a reply of Uzumaki Naruto from the beautiful blonde in front of her. "You can call me Tsunami, Uzumaki-san," Tsunami stated, earning a nod from Naruto before he said, "Then I guess it's only appropriate for you to call me Naruto." He finished with a smile. This whole interaction between Naruto and Tsunami was making Kurenai jealous. Kakashi was snickering under his mask when he saw different emotions swept through Kurenai's face. Inside the house, Kiba was pissed. This bitch was blushing and stuttering from just being in front of that bastard while he's been hitting on her for a day now, and he didn't get any reaction from her the whole time. The other Genins were just indifferent to the whole ordeal. "Well, please come in," Tsunami said as she stepped away from the door for Naruto to get inside. Naruto walked inside the house and looked around. He saw the Uchiha was glaring at him, along with his fangirl Sakuto, or whatever the hell her name is. Both were standing with their 3 other teammates. Looking back at Tsunami, he asked, "Ano, Tsunami-san, would you point me toward a room where I can let my friend rest? You can take her upstairs and place her on the bed in the second room. I will be there shortly with a first aid kit," Tsunami stated before she went to the kitchen to get medical supplies. Naruto took Kimiko upstairs, and few minutes later he came down to conversing people, though Kurenai looked kind of pissed. Before he came down, Naruto subtly make a cage bush in which changes into a potted plant since he saw the lecherous look the mud boy was giving Kimiko. And with her being unconscious, she couldn't defend herself should he try something stupid which would end in his own miserable death. "After all, I'd hate to have to explain to Sensei why I killed a clan heir. Whatever, his sister's stronger and really good looking. And oh bad Naruto you have Kurenai." He berated himself for even thinking of another woman when he was in a possible relationship with Kurenai. Per Newton, no. There won't be any Kiba bashing, if you are thinking that by this paragraph or the ones before. Taking a seat next to Kurenai, Naruto said, "Has the old man gone senile, sending bunch of rookie genin outside of Konoha completely oblivious to the glares he was receiving from some genin, or at least he chose to act like he was oblivious to the glares? So what kind of mission is this?" Since Kurenai seems to not want to talk, Kakashi decided to answer Naruto's question. This was supposed to be a C-rank mission assigned to escort bridge builder Tarzuna, but turns out it became an A-rank mission when we encountered Momoki Zabuza. Naruto narrowed his eyes. "Momoki Zabuza, as in one of the 7 swordsmen of former hidden village of Mist?" he asked, getting a nod from the copy ninja. "Were you able to take him out?" "I was able to defeat him with some help, but before I could deliver the finishing blow, he was saved by one of his accomplices who was dressed as a hunter nin," explained Kakashi, hoping he isn't called a weakling or something by the Sannin for not being able to take down Zabuza by himself. "I see," Naruto said thoughtfully. "Kakashi-sensei, why are you telling him about our mission?" Sakura interjected while still glaring at Naruto. Naruto laughed when he heard her say that. "I am the superior ranking ninja here, so only the Hokage outranks me, and seeing as he isn't here right now, I will be taking over the team for this mission. So why don't you be a good little genin and stay quiet while your superior discusses this matter?" he said in a cold voice, adding a bit of killing intent, making Sakura recoil in fright. "Who made you my superior?" Sasuke decided to cut in. Even though he thought that acting as Naruto's friend would benefit him, he just couldn't let this guy go on thinking he is Sasuke's superior. "First, I could kill you with my pinky. Second, I have the title of Sannin, and as such am the superior of every Konoha nin, other than Jiraiya-san who is my equal and Sarutobi-sensei who is my superior." "Now shut up, you bore me," Naruto said before unleashing a small portion of killing intent that was surprisingly enough to make both the gay Avenger and fangirl gasp before passing out. Kakashi sighed. "Sasuke's arrogance will get him killed, and Sakura will get killed for being a fangirl. Can you 3 take these 2 to their room?" Kakashi asked the 3 genin, earning nods from each. They then proceeded to take the Avenger and his fangirl to their respective room. Looking at Kakashi, Naruto said, "Now that nuisances are out of the way, why don't we get back to your mission?" Earning a nod from Kakashi. Kurenai, well, she was still pissed at Naruto, thinking that he was flirting with Tsunami, which is why Kakashi was answering every question asked by Naruto. Considering Zabuza got away, do you have any idea when he'll strike back? Naruto asked while eyeing Kurenai. Noticing her lack of participation in the conversation at the time, her face looked kind of like the Uchiha's when he broods, which is always. Only thing differentiate between their expression is that Kurenai looks beautiful while Sasuke looks like the fag he is. Kakashi nodded. I believe he will heal up within a week or so, and in that time Kurenai and I will prepare the team, he finished while hoping to end this conversation as soon as possible so he could go back to reading his precious book. He was still waiting for the new release, which should be out in about a month or so. After hearing Kakashi's report, Naruto started thinking if he should stay here and maybe help them. His original plan was to come to Wave and maybe find a good place for Kimiko to live in and head straight to Konoha, since Suno will most likely label her Kia. So not to arouse suspicion, Naruto brought her to the only place where shinobis barely comes unless in mission, in which case Konoha shinobi will most likely be hired. Now that Kurenai along with the company are here, there was no way Naruto could just leave them to fend off Zabuza, especially since Kurenai is here. They might have been able to fend him off last time, but this time surely he will bring reinforcement. Naruto sighed as he ran his fingers through his blonde fiery locks before looking at Kakashi, who was now reading Icha Paradise Volume 10, making Naruto remember that Jiraiya told him to give one of the Icha book to Kakashi. So he started to pull one out of his pocket, but then realized that Kakashi will most likely spend majority of his time reading the perverted book when he is supposed to help his students train or something. So he decided to give it to him after the mission is over. Looking back at Kurenai, he saw her staring off into space with a sad look on her face. Needing to know what was wrong with her, Naruto asked, "Is there a problem, Kurenai-san?" with a concerned look on his face. Kurenai looked over at Naruto and saw the concerned look on his face. So to reassure him she responded, "Don't worry about me. I am just tired is all." Before standing up and leaving the room, Kakashi, do you know what's wrong with her?" asked Naruto. Putting his book down on the table in front of him, Kakashi answered, "Considering the way she was looking at you while you and Tsunami-san were talking, I would say she's jealous." Earning a confused look from Naruto, making him sigh. Could the Sannin really be this dense when it comes to women? Why would she be jealous about that? Naruto questioned. He really didn't understand women. One minute they are happy and then they are sad. Kurenai looked kind of happy when she saw him, but few minutes later she became all depressed. Probably because she likes you and it seemed like you were flirting with Tsunami-san in the doorway, Kakashi stated, making Naruto blush when he heard Kakashi say that Kurenai might like him. Kakashi was kind of frustrated with Naruto for being this dense, though somewhat proud of himself for being able to give one of the strongest ninja in the world dating advice. If that's true, I guess I'll have to speak to her about that, Naruto said before getting out of his seat and walked over to the door. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to take care of something, before heading out the door, leaving Kakashi to his book. 15 minutes later, Naruto arrived at his destination, which was a rundown shack on the edge of town. Walking in, Naruto looked around the place that seems to have been empty for at least couple of months. Not finding the person he was looking for, Naruto walked outside, coming upon an old woman. "Excuse me, ma'am, do you know where Shinkai Goku lives?" Naruto asked politely to the old woman. The old woman looked toward the voice to see a handsome young man. "Is he a friend of yours?" she asked, trying to be sure that he wasn't one of Gat's men. But he didn't look like one of them, since every single of his men looked like a maniac and had perverse look permanently plastered to their face. This one seemed like a polite person. Naruto gave her a nod and she continued, "I am sorry for your loss." Getting a confused look from the Sannin. "What do you mean?" asked Naruto. "I guess you haven't heard. Your friend was killed by Gat's men a couple months ago for suspicion of treason. He was publicly executed to bring fear into the people of Wave, since Gat has deluded himself into thinking he was some sort of king." She finished with a sad smile, remembering the polite men who used to help her with groceries and sometimes with her financial needs. He also had been hoarding lots of money to help build the bridge. But then one day Gat found out about that and killed him for treason. Naruto nodded at her, then said, "Arigato," before walking away while lost in his thoughts. No wonder he hadn't heard from Shin for a while. Every one of his spy would send him reports every month or so. Naruto balled his fist at his own incompetence. He really should have checked what was wrong instead of assuming that Shin was just busy with things. But he really couldn't do anything about that except make Gat pay for what he has done. Needing to calm himself down, Naruto walked around the island for a couple of hours before he was hit with some information as his clone from Kamiko's room dispelled itself. It seems she has woken up, so he decided to head back. 20 minutes of walking, Naruto finally arrived at Tarzuna's house. Opening the door, he noticed everyone at the table along with two people he didn't recognize. One of the unknown people was an old man around the age of 60 with light black hair and a pair of glasses. The other one was a little kid around 7 years of age. Even Kamiko was there, who currently was slyly making her way towards Tsunami. Aheo Mina. Naruto greeted everyone, getting their attention. The old man suddenly jumps up when he saw Naruto and with a frightened voice he demanded, "Who are you?" Before he felt a hand on his shoulder. Looking back, he saw Kakashi's hand on his shoulder. He gave Kakashi a confused look. "Don't worry, he is with us," Kakashi stated, making Tarzuna somewhat relax. "You have been out for a long time, Naruto-san," said Tsunami with a small smile. Naruto looked over to Tsunami before he blushed at the sight. Everyone was curious as to what Naruto was blushing at and saw Kamiko, who was sitting beside Tsunami, now behind her, fondling Tsunami's breast while murmuring something about being so soft and big, making Kakashi and Kiba fly back from nosebleed. Sasuke thought this was stupid. Why would someone blush from seeing a disturbing scene like that? Though he couldn't help but blush at the thought of it being him feeling up that Hyuga from the graduating class before turning away and assuming his non-caring position, while even Shino had a blush when his face. Tarzuna choked on his breath before quickly looking away from this offending scene, considering it was his daughter that was being molested. His grandson was just oblivious to this whole thing since he didn't understand what was happening. The female population turned bright red, especially the unconscious Hyuga girl who passed out a second after her lavender eyes set on the perverse yet slightly erotic sight in front of her. Tsunami was blushing from both anger and embarrassment. Embarrassed from being groped by a woman and angry since everyone was watching her, even her son. "Stop this right now, Kamiko-san, or no dinner for you tonight," Tsunami commanded, putting a stop to what Kamiko was doing. "I see you are getting along with everyone, Kamiko," Naruto said with a chuckle, earning him a sheepish grin and a nod from Kamiko. "Though I didn't expect you to be so well acquainted with Tsunami-san," with a bit of sarcasm in his voice, making both ladies blush. "So how are you feeling?" asked Naruto with concern. Kamiko flexed her muscles and said, "Good as new," with zest before wincing for the pain in her shoulder. Naruto noticed, but nodded nonetheless. Looking at Kurenai, he said, "Can I have a minute with you, Kurenai-san?" Before stepping out of the house, and Kurenai followed suit. She couldn't comprehend what Naruto wanted to talk her about. It couldn't be about the mission since Kakashi already explained their situation. So what could it be? After walking out of the house, Naruto jumped on the rooftop of Tarzuna's house and sat himself before motioning Kurenai to sit beside him. They both stayed quiet for a minute before Naruto asked, "Mind telling me what's wrong?" breaking the silence and catching her off guard by the question. "What do you mean?" Kurenai said with a look of delirium on her face. Naruto sighed. He didn't know if she was just faking confusion or was she really confused as she appeared to be, so he decided to enlighten her. "Don't play coy with me, Kurenai-san. There's something bothering you, so spill," he said in a serious tone as his blue eyes locked with Kurenai's red eyes, serving to unnerve Kurenai. "Why are you asking me this?" Kurenai questioned, not wanting to talk about it. But she really didn't think she would have a choice by the look she was getting from Naruto. "Because, when I arrived at Tarzuna-san's house, you seemed actually happy to see me, but after introducing myself to Tsunami-san, you started becoming depressed." And Kakashi came to a conclusion. He said, "You might have thought that I was flirting with Tsunami-san and became jealous." Naruto stated, "That pervert." Kurenai thought, balling her fist. She will be sure to make him pay for saying that to Naruto. "Weren't you?" she blurted out without a second thought. "Do you think that little of me, Kurenai-san? I would never even think of flirting with another woman, considering I went out with you, even if it wasn't a great one. Nonetheless, it was still a date," Naruto said with a hint of sadness, making Kurenai feel guilty for accusing him of hitting on another woman. "I am sorry if it seemed like I was flirting with Tsunami-san, but considering my background, I wouldn't really know the difference between flirting and simply just having a conversation with a woman," he finished, trying his best to make her understand. Kurenai somewhat understood what he was saying. She knew that he hadn't interacted with many women in his life, but even then it seemed like he was really enjoying talking to Tsunami, and she just couldn't help but feel jealous since she liked him a lot. Not that she would admit it anytime soon. "So you really weren't flirting with her?" she asked in a shaky voice while looking down, not wanting to make an eye contact with him. Naruto shook his head, then said, "No, Even though she seemed like a nice lady, she is just not my type. With a smile, scrunching his nose as he looked at her for some kind of reaction, Kurenai's head shot up, her eyes meeting as before she asked, "What is your type then?" With curiosity making Naruto look at the sky before assume a thinking pose. She thought he looked even cuter than before and only getting cuter by the passing day. A couple seconds later Naruto looked back down at Kurenai and responded, "Someone who is beautiful, caring, aggressive, also submissive, someone who understands me and loves me for who I am and what I represent, a brunette and a woman with beautiful red eyes." Finishing with a sly smirk making Kurenai beat red at the last thing on his list. "Look Kurenai-san, I like you and if we are to continue dating then I wouldn't dream of looking at another woman as long as you are by my side," Naruto admitted with a serious face. "And this is to prove it." With that, Naruto pulled her into a passionate kiss. Kurenai's eyes widened in complete shock and at his temerity, before slowly closed her eyes as she started returning the kiss. Kurenai's hand flew to his neck as she felt his strong arms sneak around her waist as the kiss became more and more heated as both poured all the passion they could muster into one of their many kisses to come. His tongue licked her lips searching for her permission and she hesitantly let him in. Naruto slowly picked her up and placed her on his lap, never breaking the kiss. Their bodies melded together as their tongues dueled and searched each other's mouth, tasting and savoring it. After a minute Naruto and Kurenai parted from their heated make-out session breathing heavily followed by blushes. Naruto scratched the back of his head while Kurenai contemplated on what to say to him now. "So does that prove something?" Naruto asked, getting his answer when Kurenai shyly nodded. Kurenai sighed in relief that she wasn't the first to say anything after that. Kurenai was thoroughly enjoying herself in Naruto's warmth before she realized that she was sitting on Naruto's lap making her jump from his lap with an impressive blush on her face surpassing her previous one. "AWWW, I was enjoying that," Naruto whined earning him a playful punch on the head. "Pervert," she said making Naruto grumble under his breath. Kurenai giggled which Naruto found to be extremely cute. For the next 2 hours Naruto and Kurenai made small talks before Kakashi called them for dinner. Naruto stood up and proffered her his hand, which she gladly accepted. She stood up and said, "I don't kiss a guy after one date so you better take me on another one Buster," a little playfully with a glare. "Sure." Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly with a grin on his face before both jumped from the rooftop and headed inside the house. Walking inside Naruto saw everyone was sitting at the table in the dining room waiting for dinner. He and Kurenai walked over and sat down and a few minutes later Tsunami came into the room with a platter of food in hand. "Arigato for the food, Tsunami-san," Kakashi said and everyone else nodded their appreciation. "It's no problem. After all you guys are protecting my father's life and trying to help make Wave Country a better place for everyone," she said before taking a seat next to Tarzuna. "I taught Akumasu," everyone said before an awkward silence followed where everyone just ate their food until a young boy came into the room and sat down with a scoff. "Naruto-san, I don't think I've introduced my son to you yet. This is Inari," said Tsunami introducing her son. "Doesn't matter. They're just going to die like everyone else who goes up against Gato," mumbled the boy just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't worry Inari. I assure you none of us are going to die at the hands of some business tyrant. We're all more than skilled enough to handle a mission like this, especially since Naruto-san is here right now," assured Kurenai not knowing that this served her to anger the little kid. "Why do you even try? You are all going to die just like," he shouted unable to finish before running from the room and up the stairs with tears freely falling from his eyes. All the Leaf Ninjas could only sit there dumbfounded unable to see why he did that. Only Naruto was able to see the pain in the little kid's eyes. "I must apologize for Inari's behavior. He's still mourning the loss of someone very dear to us," apologized Tarzuna in a somber tone. "I am sorry for your loss," Naruto said with sympathy. Tsunami shook her head and responded, "It's okay. Everyone needs to let go of their precious people sometime in life. But it seems Inari is still not over my husband's death," she said sadly. "What happened?" Sakura butted in, unable to see that it was a sensitive subject. Deciding that it was more of Tsunami's story to tell, Tarzuna decided to let her answer and Tsunami continued. "A little over a year ago Inari became very close to a man named Keizo who had saved Inari's life. Keizo was a very kind man who tried to protect our country and was considered a hero by most. Inari considered him as an adoptive father who no one could defeat. When Gato showed up and started trying to take over Wave, Keizo fought back against his men. This seemed to inspire the rest of the people of Wave to do the same. However, Gato saw this and decided to have Keiza killed in front of everyone to crush people's spirit. That day Inari saw his father literally tortured to death. After Keiza's death, everyone in Wave just seemed to give in to Gato's control. Now Inari thinks just like the rest of Wave that if anyone stands against Gato they will fail and end up dead. Tsunami expounded with a sad smile, remembering the times she had with Keiza. That's so sad, Hinata said with few tears in her eyes. After hearing Tsunami's depressing story, everyone's mood seemed to have dropped. Tarzuna, wanting to lighten up the mood in the room, said, "So what's this about you guys winning easily since this Gaki is here?" he said, pointing toward Naruto. He looks just as weak as the other 5 brats, earning his glares from all the Genins while Kakashi choked on his food. Then a few seconds later he started turning blue before Kakashi comically started punching his chest until he got the food down. "Damn. I think I just saw the Shinigami," he said as he was trying to catch his breath. "To answer your question, Tarzuna-san, Naruto-sama is the strongest ninja in the world, and he is probably stronger than all of us in this room combined." Kakashi voiced his opinion, making Tarzuna spit out the water in his mouth. "Nani? He is half your age," stated a shocked Tarzuna. "There are people younger than me, but stronger than me. In the ninja world, age doesn't mean anything. Naruto-sama just happened to be one of them," Kakashi explained. "You are flattering me, Kakashi," Naruto said while not sounding flattered at all. The rest of dinner passed in much higher spirits, and it wasn't long till it was time for everyone to be headed for bed. Saying goodnight, everyone left the table to make their way to their respective bedrooms since they needed to wake up early tomorrow morning to assume the guard duty and train for the upcoming battle. Unknown location. 2 figures sitting few feet away from each other were conversing amongst themselves in a corridor with only a lamp to lighten up the room, but not enough to reveal their face that was hidden in the dark. They were suddenly interrupted when another person burst through the door. Both figures turned their heads toward the figure. "Orochimaru-sama," said the newcomer while trying to catch his breath, most likely from running. "What do you want, vermin? Can't you see I am in the middle of an important meeting?" demanded one of the seated figure in a snake-like hiss. "Gomen Nasai Orochimaru-sama, but we have just received urgent news from Suna via their fastest bird regarding the squad of Oto and Bu that was sent to Suna a few days ago. It seems that the whole squad were slaughtered along with a couple of root members by something still unknown." The newcomer relayed the news as he was shaking from the increasing killing intent in the room from Orochimaru. "Send a message to Suna and tell them to inform me about any recent news on this matter. Now get out of my sight, Chunin," Orochimaru commanded. He would have killed the Chunin by now for interrupting his meeting, but he was needed to send a message to Suna. "Hi," said the scared Chunin before leaving the room. Orochimaru looked to his side and saw the figure sitting beside him was now standing. The figure flashed him a smile before saying, "I must get going, Orochimaru-sama. This incident must be reported to Danzo-sama." As he walked out of the door, leaving only Orochimaru in the room, Orochimaru stared at the door, then gave out a sadistic chuckle. "Kyuku, your time will come soon, Danzo. Right after my senile old fool of a sensei," he finished while licking his lips with his snake-like tongue in anticipation to see the blood of his former sensei. Konoha. Inside a prison cell, there sat a figure tied to a chair wearing tattered clothes that may have once been ambu clothing. Suddenly the man towering over him, wearing a black leather trench coat along with his Konoha Hittite unfolded and used as a bandana over his head, smiled sadistically as the door opened. The man turned to face the 2 newcomers, said the one thing that ensured that the tied-up figure's fate. "Boys, this fellow's flames of youth have diminished and he needs your help," pointing at the restrained figure, who took one look at the 2 newcomers' smiling faces and pissed himself with one thought in mind: kill me now. In Konoha. In the Hokage office, Sarutobi was signing his ever-increasingly evil paperwork with an irritated look obvious on his features. "Stupid Naruto and his stupid ideas," he mumbled as he thought back to the day before. Flashback. Finally finishing up his paperwork for the day, Sarutobi was relaxing on his comfortable chair while sucking on his pipe. Suddenly, a man wearing a black leather trench coat along with his Konoha Hittite unfolded using it as a bandana over his head shunched into his office. Sarutobi looked plainly at him, then asked, "What is it, Abiki?" with a curious look. "Hokage-sama, there seems to be a problem with the Oto and Bu," Ibiki stated. Sarutobi gave him a questioning look before motioning for him to continue. "Under Naruto-sama's new torture tactic, we were able to obtain certain amount of information from the prisoner, but before we were able to finish up the interrogation, he started mumbling some nonsense before dying from a prolonged seizure. After using a reluctant Yamanaka to determine the cause, we found out that he had a mental breakdown due to not being able to handle all the mental images from our newest torture. Ibiki elaborated with glee. He couldn't wait to use it on more incompetent subjects in the future. Naruto-sama truly is a genius, Ibiki thought with a dreamy look. The old man saw the look on Ibiki's face and he immediately knew that it was the same look a certain purple-haired special Junin gets when she finds new type of poison to try on her prisoners, and in Ibiki's case it was most likely the one to try out Naruto's special Guyan-Lee torture tactic. Even though it seemed to be really effective, he just didn't have the heart to let anyone else to go through this suffering, no matter what their crime was. So he would just have to ban it. What did you find out? Sarutobi asked, getting Ibiki out of his imaginative state. Ibiki nodded before he said, his name is Shibito Kazakato, Anbu captain from the newly created Otogakure located in Rice country. His team was ordered by his cage to go into Suna and relay some message, though before we were able to find out what he had passed. Ibiki expounded. Did you find out who identity of the Otokage? The Hokage asked, earning a nod from Ibiki, who said one word, Orochimaru. Sarutobi's eyes grew wide in response. The old man thought for a second before he said, dismissed, but before you go, I am forbidding you from using Naruto's special idea again, crushing Ibiki's future hope of having the ultimate torture tactic. A smile of satisfaction reached the Sandaime's lips when he saw the desperate look on Ibiki's face. It's true what they say, misery does love company, he thought with a chuckle. He then saw Ibiki using his puppy eye jutsu in such a pathetic attempt to sway him, that Sarutobi had no choice but to allow him to use it, but only on extreme cases. Ibiki gave him a nod of satisfactory before he shunshined out of the Hokage office. And flashback. Now here he was, doing more paperwork due to the Anbu's death. At this point he could only wish that someone would help him get out of this miserable life, and soon. Wave Country. A week has gone by since Kurenai and Kakashi, along with their Genin team, arrived at Wave on the mission to protect Tarzuna. During this time, both Junins took turns between teaching Teams 7 and 8 and guarding Tarzuna while he was working on finishing the bridge. Everyone progressed pretty quickly with their training. Hinata, having already learned the tree walking, went on to water walking, which took her 2 days to completely master. Sakura, even though completed her task on her first try, still had to continue working on it to improve her pathetic stamina. Shino got it within an hour or two. The only ones who had trouble mastering tree walking were Sasuke and Kiba, since both had the most amount of chakra to control and least amount of patience. Kiba, for his part, had most certainly learned to control his emotion due to Naruto teaching him a lesson after he tried something unacceptable with Hinata, much to her displeasure. Flashback. Chuso, why can't I do this? Kiba yelled out in frustration. He had been practicing for a whole day and still was a few feet away from getting to the top of the tree along with Sasuke, who was few inches above him. Sasuke was even more annoyed than Kiba at the moment. Reason being, he had to listen to Kiba's complaining for the last 10 minutes, which was getting on his nerves. Also, the fact he was still trying to finish this useless tree walking, even though his sensei told them that this would help their chakra control. He just couldn't see how the hell this was going to help him take down his traitorous brother. He also was infuriated that everyone else beside Kiba, of course, finished tree walking before him. He was brought out of his musing when he heard Kiba yell out, "Oi Sasuke, let's go back. I haven't had anything to eat from the morning." Sasuke wouldn't naturally listen to what Kiba says, but right now he was hungry, so with a simple nod, he complied to head back to Tarzuna's house for lunch with Kiba. Kiba and Sasuke jumped down on the ground and Kiba looked at his familiar Akamaru, who was sleeping under the shade of a big tree. "Let's go, Akamaru, I am pretty sure you are hungry, too." The dog woke up and barked in agreement before all three headed for lunch. On their way, Kiba spotted Hinata in the middle of a lake practicing water walking, which made him slightly jealous. Here was his girlfriend doing something that he couldn't do yet. Forgetting his hunger, Kiba looked at Sasuke, who also sported a frown on his face while looking at Hinata. "Hey Sasuke, why don't you go ahead? I will join you soon," Kiba said. Sasuke made a grimace showing Kiba his annoyance. "Whatever, Sasuke mumbled with his uncaring attitude as he slowly walked to Tazuna's home. After Sasuke left the area, Kiba and Akamaru made their way toward Hinata. "Hey Hinata," he called out in a sonorous tone. Hinata looked back and saw Kiba standing on the shore of the lake. "Hello Kiba-kun," she said in a delicate voice with a smile before she gingerly walked toward Kiba as not to fall in the water. She was still somewhat an amateur in this whole walking on water thing. "What are you doing here?" she asked. After she safely stepped onto the solid ground, she stopped her stuttering around Kiba since she was more comfortable around him beside her sensei, Kurenai. "I was originally going back for lunch, but then saw you training and you looked like you could use a break. So I thought maybe we could do something to take your mind off of training for now," Kiba pronounced. Hinata smiled at him for being so considerate. Nodding her head, Hinata then sauntered up to a tree and sat under the shade before motioning for Kiba to come and sit beside her, which Kiba did with satisfaction. After her boyfriend made himself comfortable, Hinata asked, "So what do you want to do, Kiba-kun?" While enjoying the little bit of rest she was getting. "Why don't you sit back while I give you a massage to help you relax?" Kiba said with a slightly perverse smile which Hinata couldn't see because she was busy averting her gaze with a blush playing on her cheeks. Deciding to accept the offer due to her stiff shoulder, Hinata gave him a shy nod not knowing what his intentions were. She turned around to give him access to her shoulder before Kiba started his work. After a minute of enjoying the massage, Hinata started relaxing. Seeing her completely mollified, Kiba decided to go in for the kill before he brought his lips to her neck, lightly kissing. This act provoked a gasp from Hinata. "Kiba-kun?" Her breath hitched when his hands started roaming over her covered stomach, and started going higher. She could feel his breath on the back of her neck. What are you doing?" she finally stuttered out with an intense blush from embarrassment. "I want you," he whispered with a husky voice. The young Hyuga's eyes widened in shock when his lips grazed her earlobe. She felt his hands moving only a few inches away from grasping her pugnacious breasts. Immediately going into action, Hinata grasped his hands, stopping him in track before she said, "Stop Kiba-kun. I am not ready yet and we are too young." With courage, a low growl was heard in response, sending a shiver down her spine in slight fear. "But I am ready and that's all that should matter, my love," Kiba stated. Tears threatened to fall from her pearly eyes before she quickly shut them as not to let her tears fall when she heard him say that. "So he was just using me all this time," she thought while she was lost in thoughts. Her firm grasp on Kiba's hands loosened, which he took as an indication of her acquiescence. With a smirk filled with confidence, Kiba squeezed her and almost drooled at the softness and hugeness of her breasts. Hinata's eyes flew open before she shot up from the ground, her hand shooting forward to Kiba's face. A loud sound echoed throughout the clearing as Hinata's palm made contact with the Inuzuka's cheek, leaving its mark. Hinata let loose a stream of tears that trailed down her soft features. Kiba stared wide-eyed at the girl from shock. He never expected her to react this way. Just as he was about to say something, Hinata ran away from him as though he were contaminated by an invisible contagion. She raced back home with tears flowing freely down her cheeks, hoping to find comfort in the woman she had come to admire and trust over the last month. Kiba stood where Hinata had left him, a dazed look obvious on his face, holding his red check with Kurenai. Kurenai was just doing her hair, waiting for Naruto to come so they could go outside and hang out for a while. She and Naruto had a lot of fun the past couple of days with occasional kissing and other stuff, though nothing serious. She didn't want their relationship to move too fast. Just as she finished her hair, someone barged into her room. She thought it was Naruto, so she didn't bother to check who it was. Then she heard a soft cry which sounded oddly like Hinata's. Looking back, she saw the Hyuga heiress face down on her bed, sobbing away. Quickly getting up, she went over to the crying girl and put a hand on her shoulder. "Hinata, what's wrong?" she asked in a mollifying tone. A concerned look obvious on her face. The girl cried louder, as if ignoring the calming presence of her sensei. Kurenai then slightly moved her student so she could cradle the girl until she could calm down enough to talk. A few minutes later, Hinata finally calmed down. "Hinata, tell me what's wrong?" Kurenai asked again with a soothing tone. Hinata looked up at her sensei, her eyes red from all the crying. "Kurenai-sensei, Hiccup Kiba-kun. She proceeded to inform Kurenai of the event that took place between her and Kiba. To say Kurenai was pissed was an understatement. She knew Kiba was a hormone-raged teenager, but she never expected him to pull something like this with the heiress of the Hyuga clan. She was going to have to do something about this. Unbeknownst to them, Naruto was standing outside of Kurenai's room with a beyond aggravated expression. He was just about to come into her room so they could head outside, but when he arrived, he heard someone crying and decided to listen in. It technically wasn't the right thing to do, but that's not the issue here. After hearing what happened, it took every bit of his willpower not to just go over to the filthy mutt and rip out his throat. Even though he couldn't do that, that mutt still needs to learn his lesson, and with that in mind Naruto went down the stairs to find the Inuzuka. Downstairs, Kiba came into the living room where Sasuke, Sakura, and their one-eyed sensei were watching TV. Shino was most likely guarding the bridge at the moment. They looked at him with narrowed eyes and Sasuke asked, "What happened to you, dog breath?" with an amused look clear on his face. "Shut up, Sasuke," Kiba growled, annoyed by the fact that people saw him in his current state. "Don't call Sasuke that," was the retort from the pink-haired Kunoichi. It was ignored by everyone in the room. At the moment, they were more interested in knowing what had happened to Kiba. Kiba was about to shut her up, but stopped when he saw Naruto coming down the stairs with a scary look on his face. "Kiba-san, can I see you for a moment?" Naruto asked in a firm tone, unnerving everyone in the room, especially Kiba considering he was one being called. With a reluctant nod, Kiba decided to follow Naruto, though he wasn't sure as to why the Sannin would want to talk to him in private. He hoped it wasn't because of what happened earlier with him and Hinata, though there was pretty slim chance of Naruto knowing that, unless, of course, Hinata talked to him about it. Nah. Kiba thought. "So where are we going?" Kiba asked, expecting Naruto to answer, but after a few minutes of silence, he asked again, "Are you going to tell me where we are headed to, Naruto-sama?" While his eyes were filled with mock adulation and respect. Still not getting an answer, Kiba growled under his breath and was about to repeat his question with curses only to feel a slight pull on his jacket followed by seeing nothing but a blur for a second before he was slammed into a tree, knocking the breath out of him. "Listen, you little prick. I don't know who you think you are, but I will not tolerate that kind of behavior from a ninja of Konoha, especially not from someone who only recently became a genin," Naruto said in a dangerous tone, letting out some killing intent, which made Kiba tremble in fear. The boy was still trying to catch his breath. "What the hell are you talking about?" he asked while struggling with his words as Naruto's right hand put pressure on his chest. "I am talking about what happened between you and Hyuga Hinata," Naruto stated. Kiba looked at him in shock. "Do you know what you've just done? Did you even stop to think?" "No, I bet that you didn't. You just caught a feel from Hyuga Hinata, the heiress of the Hyuga clan. I don't care if she was your girlfriend or not. You didn't ask her permission to do what you did." Naruto stopped his verbal assault, as Kiba's eyes grew wide in realization. "I'm glad to see you understand. Obviously you didn't take into account what kind of pull the Hyugas have. Why, for groping the heiress, I'd say they kill you on sight, should Hinata-san, Kurenai-san or I choose to tell the main branch. Now, I've seen greater men die for less, and it would be a shame for the heir to the Inuzuka clan to be killed for such an act. I'm sure it would bring great shame to your family." By this time, Kiba was near tears. He thought Hinata would be okay with it, which is why he didn't bother to listen when she told him to stop. Boy, was he wrong. Naruto continued, hiding his emotions all the while. "Remember this, for it will be your only warning. I will not stand for this type of thing ever again. It is a disgrace to you, your clan, and your village. Should I ever hear of you committing such heinous acts again, I personally will be the one to deal with you. Am I understood?" Naruto barked out, forcing more fear into Kiba. Why yes, Naruto-sama," he stuttered out with a nod, holding himself back from passing out from the overwhelming transient killing intent bestowed upon him. "Now, get back to the house and apologize to Hinata-sama while I take care of Kurenai-san," Naruto said with an exasperated sigh before he left Kiba. Kiba, who had no idea where he was, looked around and saw he was surrounded by trees. "How the hell did we get all the way here?" he said to no one in particular while feeling his chest strangely. It seemed as if the pressure from Naruto's hand had left an indelible imprint. Quickly standing up, he fixed himself before heading home again. 30 or so minutes later, Kiba walked straight into the house, ignoring the look he was getting from the occupants in the living room. Walking up the stairs, He headed toward Kurenai's room where he predicted Hinata to be. With shaky hands, he slowly opened the door and saw Kurenai sitting with Hinata, comforting her. "What the hell are you doing here, Kiba?" Kurenai said, making Kiba flinch. Putting his head down in shame, he answered, "I am sorry, Sensei, but I need to talk to Hinata right now." Kurenai's glare only strengthened before she said, "Why?" "So you can finish what you started," making him feel lower than the dirt. "No, I just need a minute to apologize to Hinata for my behavior earlier," he said in a serious tone. Kurenai stared at him for a while longer before she nodded and got up to leave the room. "If he tries anything, let me know. I will be right outside this room," Kurenai said to Hinata as she left them room. Kurenai closed the door. Leaning her head back against the wood, she sighed to herself and listened in on the conversation inside, her eyes closed. Inside the room, Kiba went over to the bed and sat down few feet away from Hinata, who held her head at an oblique angle, so that she could, by merely shifting her eyes, look at Kiba and then out the windows. Kiba shifted under her gaze, trying to find the courage to say something. Taking a deep breath to calm his nerve, he said, "I am sorry for what I did." Hinata, trying to sound as sincere as possible. Hinata stared at him then said, "I don't know if I can forgive you, Kiba-kun." With her stuttering back, "Look Hinata, I'm really sorry. What I did was underhanded and I didn't consider your feelings. I promise I will do anything to make it up to you, so please just give me another chance," Kiba pleaded with a desperate look on his face. Hinata looked out the window, not wanting to see the expression on his face. She shook her head. "You broke my heart, Kiba-kun, which is why I don't think we should be a cozy couple anymore," she replied softly, trying to hold back the oncoming tears. "I see," Kiba whispered with remorse. How could he have been so stupid to hurt someone like Hinata? Now he felt worse than he did when he first came into the room. "Can we at least maybe still be friends?" he asked with hope. Hinata looked him in the eye, trying to see if he was genuine. When she saw no deception in his eyes, she nodded her head, earning a sad smile from Kiba. "Arigato, Hinata," Kiba said. "Maybe she will let me into her heart sometime in the future. I will do anything within my power not to break it twice." With that in mind, he left the room with newfound determination. Right outside the room, Kurenai lifted her eyelids slowly when she felt Naruto's presence. Her crimson orb set upon seas of blue as the young Sannin walked over to her. "I take it you had some part in making him apologize?" Kurenai asked. "I merely told him the facts and made sure he understood that his actions could have serious consequences," the blonde replied with a smirk. "I am disgusted by his actions, but it seems that your talk shall suffice in punishment." Naruto nodded before he looked around the hallway. Sensing no one near, he wrapped his arms around the Junin's neck, bringing her lips close to his, catching her in a passionate kiss, eliciting a moan from Kurenai. He let his tongue lick at her lower lip, asking for entrance. She complied and let their tongues dance. Kurenai brought her hands up and caressed the Phoenix Sannin's face. They deepened the kiss, relishing each other's taste. The soft sound of footsteps reached their ears and Naruto let his grasp relax. Kurenai stepped back and rested her back against the wall just as her charge opened the door. Kiba kept his head low and walked past them, only looking up to receive a glare from Naruto. He quickened his pace and disappeared down the stairs. "You know, if we keep doing that around the house, someone might notice." "I am pretty sure Kakashi already knows about us," Kurenai said, trying to catch her breath. Naruto chuckled. "Haha, Kakashi should know, considering I went to him for dating advice. Besides, if anyone else finds out, I will just have to eliminate them," he finished in a joking tone. "Anyway, can I still take your offer on that walk?" Naruto asked, already knowing the answer. "I'm sorry, I still need to look after Hinata for a while," Kurenai said as she peeked into the room to see the girl staring out the window with a dazed look on her face. "I understand. If you guys need anything, let me know. I will be downstairs," he offered before pecking her on the lips, then sauntering down the stairs. And flashback. After that, everything pretty much returned to normal, though Hinata was still a little cautious around Kiba, which was understandable. Next morning, Naruto's ears perked up gently in the sleep. He had mastered detecting the quietest sounds in the past. This sound that interrupted his nap though was that of softened footsteps from far off. He jumped up, fully awake in that one moment. He knew that Kurenai and Kakashi would be protecting Tarzuna early in the morning, and from what he could tell from looking outside, It was probably just past 10 a.m. There should have been no reason for anyone from the Genin team to be back at the house this early. And if they were, they would find no need in being stealthy. Though it was too pathetic to be called stealth. Something was amiss. Naruto's instinct screamed that. Naruto pulsed his chakra, sensing his surrounding to find some unwanted guests. He created a cage punch and then ordered, "Go wake Kimiko up," as he proceeded to check the surroundings from the window. The doppelganger nodded his head before heading toward Kimiko's room. The blonde Sannin pulled out a kunai, preparing himself for an attack. He crept downstairs, making sure to silence his feet with chakra. There were sounds outside, possibly voices. Naruto listened intently, trying to pick up the conversation. "Stop! Get away from my mom!" yelled out a boy, and by the sound of it, it was Inari. Hoping to see what was happening, Naruto sped outside, still concealing his presence from the enemy. He was slightly surprised to see Inari running towards two men with swords. One had an eye patch on his left eye. His left hand seemed to be covered with some kind of tattoo. The other one had tattoos under his eyes with a winter hat on his head. "Inari, no! Don't come near!" his mother yelled with a desperate look on her face. The boy didn't heed his mom's words as he kept on running toward the wannabe samurais. "The boss just said we need one hostage, right?" questioned the one with eye patch. "Yeah, that's all," his companion answered. "Then I guess we could kill this one. I swear if you hurt him, I'll..." Tsunami tried to interrupt, but never got to finish as she was knocked out by one of the assailants. "Take a nap, woman," said the guy with tattoos under his eyes before he and his companion grasped the hilt of their swords, bringing them out of their sheaths. Both took a swipe at Inari, who was just a foot away from them. Just as the sword came near him, Inari closed his eyes waiting for the swords to split him in half. But it never came, so he slowly opened his eyes to see someone he was at the moment glad to see. "Are you okay, Inari?" Naruto asked as he held on to the blades between his thumb and index fingers of each of his hands. Naruto saw Inari nod before his focus shifted to the two men struggling in front of him trying to pull their swords out of his grasp. "Inari, close your eyes for a moment," Naruto said, not wanting to let the kid see what was about to take place. Inari complied. Then he heard one of the men ask, "Who are you?" Naruto gave them a sadistic smile before he answered, "You'll never know." "And why?" tried to say the eye-patched man, but his words stopped as he and his partner choked on their own breath due to the incisions on their throat. Deciding to give them a quicker death, Naruto snapped his finger before blue flames shot out from his hands, burning their body in a matter of seconds, leaving no remains. He slowly walked over to unconscious Tsunami, then picked her up before he looked back to see a gaping Kimiko. Noticing her surprised stare, he shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Looking over at Inari, he saw the kid still had his eyes closed, so he said, "You can't open them now, Inari." Inari opened his eyes and looked around for the samurais, but when he didn't see any, he asked, "Hey, what happened to those scary-looking guys?" Naruto thought for a second, trying to come up with something. "Well, you see, they are someplace else thinking about what they did, and I am pretty sure they will never bother you guys again," he expounded with a smile, earning one from Inari. Kimiko simply rolled her eyes at the ridiculousness of his explanation to the kid. "Arigato, Naruto-ni-san," Inari yelled, wrapping his arms around Naruto's waist. The blonde returned the hug, chuckling lightly at the kid's exuberance. This was the first time he'd seen the kid excited. "Anyway, you did great out here, kid. If you didn't rush toward them, then I might not have been able to make it in time to save you and your mom." He praised Inari as he ruffled the kid's hair. Inari gave a big grin, which was returned by Naruto before he looked at his female informant, then handed her the sleeping mother on his shoulder. "Look after them both and don't let them out of your sight unless I come back. I need to check what is going on at the bridge. If they sent someone here to abduct Tsunami-san, then I am pretty sure Zabuza and his companion will attack today." Naruto finished, earning a nod of understanding from Kimiko before he sped toward the bridge. "I wonder if they will take up my offer," Naruto thought as he continued toward his destination. Flashback. During their stay in Tarzuna's house, everyone except Naruto got the chance to train. Even Kimiko was able to spar with Kurenai and sometimes the Genins, to get them used to a somewhat real battle. So, on the third day of their stay, in order to get some training in, Naruto spent almost a whole day in the middle of a forest doing jutsu training along with physical exercises to the point where he had no energy to even walk back to the house. The next morning, A blonde with scorched black trench coat was leaning by a tree with his eyes closed when they suddenly shot open after he sensed someone nearby. Looking around, he checked his surroundings to see the forest in worse condition than his clothes. It was like a barren land with most of the trees burning in blue flame. Many of the plants died or were in the process of doing so due to the tremendous amount of heat. Looking behind him, he saw a girl around his age, slowly approaching him with a basket that was third of the way filled up with some plants in her left hand. She was wearing a pink kimono with red daffodils sewn into it. Holding it in place was a sash around her waist. What the hell is a civilian doing all the way here? Naruto asked himself while inspecting her closer. Her chakra level was to that of a civilian, but her posture said otherwise. She seemed to have her guard up as she walked toward him. There is no way she is a civilian, Naruto convinced himself. She kept on walking towards him, and when she was close enough, he saw her face. She had an amazing face and a body with all the right curves in all the right places. She had dark brown eyes and black hair that went to her mid-back with a little of her hair in front of her face. He would have blushed if it weren't for the fact that Kurenai looked better in his eyes. "Hello, what are you doing out here in the middle of the forest so early in the morning?" she asked with a small smile. Naruto gave her a sheepish grin then said, "Ah, I was taking a break from hard night of training." "And you, miss?" "My name is Haku, and you are?" the girl answered and half asked. "Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto," he answered, causing the girl's eyes to slightly widen, which was immediately noticed by Naruto, causing him to narrow his eyes. "Shit, a Sannin here of all places. I need to inform Zabuza-sama on this matter, but for now, I need to play it cool as not to arouse suspicion." She panicked a little while looking around the premises, inspecting the damage done by Naruto. Even though the bingo book says he is only given the title of Sannin to prove Konoha's superiority, the damage to the forest says otherwise. "And what's up with those holes in the trees?" Haku thought as she stared at the perfect sphere in the tree as if it was carved or something. "Well, Haku-san, what would a civilian be doing so far away from the village with Gato around? I wouldn't call this the safest place to be," Naruto asked with a neutral face, bringing her out of her musing. "Picking herbs, Naruto-san," she stated. Naruto gave her a questioning look. "It's to cure injuries and illnesses," she finished with a smile. "Need some help with that?" Naruto proffered the girl, who was now picking up some herbs that were away from most of the heat in the area. She nodded and offered him her thanks. For the next few minutes, both picked out herbs in silence while Naruto watched her through the corner of his eyes to check for any signs that would make her more suspicious than she already was. For a civilian to come out all the way here alone was suspicious enough. Also that she carried herself like a shinobi. Everything else seemed pretty normal. "So, who are these herbs for, Haku-san, if you don't mind me asking?" Naruto questioned, wanting to confirm his suspicion. "And no, not at all. These are for one of my friends who got injured while working on a ship," she lied, sporting a forced smile. Naruto narrowed his eyes. She seems to be lying to him, though why? He would have to find out. "That must be an awful injury if you need so much herbs," Naruto stated. "So tell me, how long is it going to take Zabuza-san to recover with this much medicine?" he finished, only to confirm his suspicion when he saw Haku's body stiffen and saw a slight movement of her hand a second later. Being found out, with a movement of Haku's wrist, she hurled senbons toward Naruto in hopes of disabling him long enough to get away, only for him to disappear for a second before a kunai was placed near her throat courtesy of the Sannin. "So fast?" Haku thought, staring at the place Naruto was a second ago with wide eyes. Naruto narrowed his eyes once more while standing behind her and spoke in a calm yet deadly voice. "I should kill you right now, Haku-san. You are putting someone important to me in potential danger, but I am willing to let you live if you pass on a message to Zabuza-san for me." "Why should I believe anything you say? For all I know, you will follow me after letting me go." Haku spoke with fear present in her voice. "You don't. But what choice do you have at the moment? If I wanted to kill you, I would have done so by now, but that would be a waste of great potential. Which is why I have a proposition for you and Zabuza-san," he said, getting a curious glance from the corner of Haku's eyes. So he continued, "Say, how much is Gato paying you to assassinate the bridge builder?" 20,000 ryo. Haku answered simply, I will triple that each month if you guys become my informants, along with added protection from me and my other spies, and I'll also get you out of Konoha's bingo book." "How does that sound?" Naruto asked, earning a shocked look from Haku. This is what they wanted. Freedom, to be not chased by hunter ninjas from all the villages all the time, and with this, They could also make double what they were earning now without having to kill people. Naruto, seeing her thinking this over, released his kunai from her throat before stepping away from the fake hunter Nin. And if you refuse, Naruto blasted Haku with huge amount of killing intent, dropping Haku to her knees, gasping for breath. "You shall perish," along with Zabuza with a dark voice, trying to prove that he was serious. Haku nodded as she struggled to breathe before she shishined out of the clearing. Unknown place in wave. Haku shishined into Zabuza's resting room, catching her breath as sweat glistened down her forehead. It was a killing intent unlike any other she had ever felt, and she could tell he was still holding back on it. "What's wrong, Haku? You seem like you've just seen a ghost," said an injured man who was bandaged to the point where he looked like a mummy, the only uncovered part being his eyes. "We need to talk, Zabuza-sama," Haku said, looking at the man. And flashback. A few seconds later, Naruto arrived at the bridge to see something that surprised him. The whole bridge was surrounded with mist. He could barely see 1 foot in front of him. The only thing his trained eyes could make out was a dome made completely out of ice. Sounds of fighting could be heard inside the mist, so to clear it up, Naruto brought both his palms out to his side, arm bent in a horse stance, then pushed forth, sending a burst of wind, clearing up the mist, leaving some surprised ninjas. "What the hell?" exclaimed Zabuza as he stared at the blonde figure a few feet away from him and Kakashi. "What the hell?" Zabuza exclaimed as he stared at the blonde figure a few feet away from him and Kakashi. Naruto looked toward the voice and saw Kakashi and the man he presumed to be Zabuza on a standstill. With a smile on his handsome face, he waved at Kakashi, then said, "Beautiful day today, don't you think, Kakashi-san? And you, Zabuza-san?" with a relaxed tone, making both Kakashi and Zabuza sweat drop. Zabuza then said, "I see my reputation precedes me," with an unseen smirk under the bandage on his face before he jumped back from Kakashi. "Don't flatter yourself, Zabuza. Anyway, did Haku-san tell you about my generous offer?" Naruto asked, confusing Kakashi, who was within the hearing range. Kakashi was starting to wonder what kind of deal Naruto made with Zabuza and who the hell was Haku. He almost slapped himself when realization hit him. Haku was that fake hunter Nin who was currently in that ice dome fighting Shino, Kiba and Sasuke, while Hinata and Sakura was protecting the bridge builder. He looked around to locate Kurenai and saw her fighting some weirdo with an afro on his head. He couldn't comprehend how Naruto came to know their enemy, so he focused his attention on the blonde Sannin and Zabuza, not wanting to miss out on this interesting conversation. "Yep, and as pleasant as it sounds, I think I will pass," Zabuza answered, readying his Zanbatsu to fight both Naruto and Kakashi, though he was not sure if he could take on Naruto. After all, from what Haku described, this guy had to be one powerful shinobi, at least for now, in case it doesn't turn out the way I want it to. Zabuza thought in his mind. "I see. That's a shame, since I was serious about the offer." "Oh well, it's your funeral," Naruto simply stated as he took his hands out of his pocket. He looked at Kakashi and saw him ready to fight Zabuza. "Kakashi, why don't you go and help out whomever is in the dome?" "Allow me to persuade my little friend here," Naruto uttered, earning a nod from Kakashi, who then rushed towards said dome to help out his genin team. When he got there, he saw Shino outside on the other side of the dome while his teammates were fighting inside. "And by the way things are looking, they won't be able to hold for much longer." "Shino, why aren't you helping your teammates in there?" Kakashi inquired with his visible eye narrowed, making Shino look at him. "It would be lumpish to rush in there without any plan when it's impossible to make a tactical retreat if needed, Kakashi-sensei," Shino elaborated. "Beside, I used Mushibunshin no Jutsu insect clone technique to help Kiba and Sasuke while I tried to think of something to get them out of there," he finished, making Kakahi's face fault for making a wrong assumption. Now that he thought about, he seemed to be doing that quite a lot these days. Kakashi looked closely and saw a clone of Shino inside the rectangular dome, shielding most of the Senbons with his bugs, though some were still able to find their way into Sasuke's and Kiba's body. "Take some rest, Akamaru," Kiba suggested after seeing how exhausted his familiar was. He himself barely had enough chakra left to maybe pull off 1 or 2 more jutsus. Akamaru barked in refusal, but complied with a whimper when Kiba glared at him. After forming the native hand seals, chakra begins to emit from the body of the Inuzuka clan heir before he took on a more canine-like appearance. "Shikyaku no Jutsu 4-legged technique," Kiba shouted before rushing toward one of the mirrors. "He has gotten faster," was the thought that ran through Haku's head as she sent a barrage of Senbon toward the speeding beast-like human. With increased agility, Kiba dodged the sharp needles and took a swipe at one of the ice mirrors he suspected Haku to be in, leaving a huge gash in it. Damn! He dodged it. He thought frantically before a kick to the head by Haku sent him flying headfirst into the same mirror, almost breaking it. Haku's eyes widened under her mask, seeing the mirror crack after taking 2 hits. That gash was reasonable, but the mirror should have been able to take more hits than that. Something is wrong here, she concluded as she added a little chakra to the cracked mirror before dodging a giant fireball sent her way by the red-eyed Uchiha. Having no time to see what was wrong, she missed the little bugs on the bottom of that particular mirror. Akamaru, seeing his master crash onto the hard pavement, quickly rushed toward the unconscious Kiba. He saw blood running down Kiba's head, making Akamaru growl in anger, baring his fangs at the multiple Hakus. Just as he was about to sprint toward one of them, Shino's voice from outside stopped him in his tracks. "Stop, Akamaru, or you'll end up just like Kiba if you hasten into battles," Shino said with calmness present in his voice, persuading the dog to stop. "Now then, guard Kiba," he ordered the dog. Looking over an exhausted Sasuke, he asked, "Sasuke, do you have enough chakra to do another Katen Jutsu?" While his clone was keeping Haku occupied, Sasuke nodded his head, not understanding where Shino was going with this, but at the moment he would agree to go with any plan that would work. "Good, use it when I tell you to," Shino told him before bugs started pouring out of his body, freaking out his conscious teammate. "Are you positive this is gonna work, Shino?" Kakashi asked, who was standing next to Shino, looking intently at the upper ram. "Hi," Shino responded. "Sensei, I need you to stand back and only assist if indispensable," he finished stoically while staring at his bugs doing their work in covering the mirrors so Haku is unable to enter them. Kakashi nodded in understanding. He didn't want to interfere in the Genin's battle now that he knew Shino was confident in his plan, unless of course they are about to die or something. While this might seem unorthodox to many people for a sensei to let their students fight in a possible death match, to Kakashi, it's a way for him to measure their current potential and teamwork and how well they respond to a life-threatening danger, for it will be important in a few months' time. Haku was staring bewilderingly at the mirrors as they were being covered by thousands of bugs, and they were starting to disgust her. As if fighting a freak show who becomes bugs whenever her attacks hits him wasn't enough, now she has to deal with these disgusting little creatures covering her iced mirrors for Kami knows what. She then saw more bugs heading toward the mirror she was in, and before they could reach it, she started doing a series of flurry one-handed seals before shouting, "Hyouten, Tenrai Hyauketsukiri no Jutsu Divine Freezing Mist." A thin quick-moving mist formed from the puddles below before sweeping over all the mirrors and the oncoming bugs, quickly freezing all of the bugs in place. So in essence, it takes water from air or water source, forming it into a moving projectile-like mist that sweeps quickly over the area, freezing all it touches. In this case, it swept over her intended target, serving to reinforce the mirrors and freezing the disgusting little bugs. A satisfying smile adorned Haku's covered face after seeing the result of her jutsu, but it was quickly whipped off when she saw the bugs starting to glow light orange before the added ice slowly started to melt, making her eyes widen in shock. There is no way bugs should be able to survive under the freezing temperature, let alone melt the ice. Sasuke and Kakashi were both wide-eyed at the sudden turn of events. They were pretty sure the bugs were goners when they were all hit by that jutsu, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So for an explanation, Kakashi turned to Shino while Sasuke was looking intently at the bugs with his two Tomoe Sharingan eyes that he acquired during this battle. With his bloodline, he could see the bugs infused with some kind of chakra, and that was what seemed to be aiding them in melting the ice. He couldn't really tell what it was due to being inexperienced with his newfound power. Shino saw his sensei looking at him for explanation, so he said simply, "These are pronominal colonies of bugs that can be infused with any kinds of chakra manipulation. In this case, I am employing fire manipulation in order to make it more susceptible to freezing temperature. I have been breeding them for over a year now and have been training with them ever since. They are better than your regular bugs that the Abraham clan spawns." He turned to look at the enemy, adjusting his sunglass after finishing his moderate explanation. Kakashi nodded before he too looked back at the dome, once more to see the bugs almost done with melting the ice. Once the ice was melted, the bugs that were frozen during their advance at Haku flew at her again, except this time with more vigor, catching their enemy almost off guard. Haku, getting out of her surprised state, quickly kicked out of the mirror and out of the way of the oncoming angry bugs just in time for them to miss her by a couple of inches. From outside, Shino saw Haku's situation then said, "It's show time," before he rushed into the bugs-covered dome with 2 kunai in hand, leaving an interested Kakashi outside as to see the outcome of this battle. Once inside, Shino launched the kunai at an unsuspecting Haku who was still in mid-air. "Sasuke, now," Shino ordered, raising his voice just enough for Sasuke to hear. The raven-haired Genin nodded before he started going through hand seals. Finishing the necessary seals, he took in a deep breath. "Katen, Housenka no Jutsu mythical fire phoenix technique," he shouted before emitting a series of small fireballs toward Haku, whose eyes widened in fear as the fireballs neared her. "With Naruto and Zabuza." "Cocky brat, aren't you?" Zabuza said before rushing toward Naruto at an impressive speed. "Nope. Just confident in my own skill," Naruto replied as he ducked under a swipe from Zabuza's Zanbatsu. "Hey, for someone who got the title of a Sannin due to your apprenticeship to the Hokage, you sure seem to think you could beat one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist," Zabuza taunted, feigning ignorance, trying to get his opponent angry enough to make mistakes. Hearing Zabuza's words, Naruto narrowed his eyes before he caught the giant Zanbatsu with chakra-enhanced hand, stopping the swing from cleaving him in half, leaving Zabuba and 3 spectators who happened to be Sakura, Hinata and the old man Tarzuna, surprised. Now, Zabuza-san, I can't imagine who would spread such nasty rumors about me, do you?" Naruto voiced lazily while Zabuza was struggling to get his Zanbatsu out of Naruto's hand. Not being able to get it out of his opponent's grasp, Zabuza let go of it, then jumped back to get some distance between them both before running through a series of hand seals. Suiten, Mizrap. He never got to finish the jutsu when Naruto appeared behind him with right foot raised, giving Zabuza only enough time to turn around to receive a roundhouse kick to the face, sending him off his feet and to the ground. "You know, it's wise to answer when someone asks you a question, or otherwise you just might tick off the wrong person," Naruto taunted with a barely suppressed smirk, getting a growl out of Zabuza, who was holding his jaw from the blow to his face. "Damn, that hurt. I didn't even get the chance to block it," Zabuza thought as he stood up on his feet before assuming a defensive stance. "Gaki, I'll kick your ass for that," he growled before disappearing from sight. Naruto saw the kick coming at the pace of a snail, so he stood there with a bored look on his features. Zabuza's foot had lashed out with pinpoint accuracy, catching nothing but the air due to Naruto merely shifting his head to dodge the attack. Then, with moves chained together faster than most Chunin could react, Zabuza started launching punch after punch at Naruto's face, missing every hit as Naruto was either dodging or blocking them with speed faster than a ninja of Zabuza's caliber could muster. With a growl, the former Kirinin disappeared again, only this time appearing behind Naruto with his hand inches away from hitting Naruto on his skull. Naruto cited Zabuza's foolishness. Couldn't the guy see that he was outmatched? "Why are people so stubborn?" he asked himself as he saw the punch coming closer. With lightning-fast speed, Naruto disappeared, then reappeared beside Zabuza with his hand holding the wrist of Zabuza's fisted hand in a death grip. "So fast," was the thought that was going through Zabuza and the 3 spectators' minds. "Che, just as I thought. Although your attacks are sharp and somewhat fast, it becomes weaker once you're caught. Like a little bird. But I do give you credit for being able to fight with your Zanbatsu. Not an easy feat for a regular ninja," Naruto said, his eyes shifting from the Zanbatsu that was on the floor then at Zabuza, who was wide-eyed. "Arghhhhh." Zabuza groaned when Naruto put more pressure on his wrist. "Chuso, this brat, I can break free?" "Such strength," he thought, trying his best to get away while wincing from pain of being crushed by the Sannin's grip. "Oh shit, I'm gonna get hit," he yelled inside his head before Naruto planted his knee in his stomach, making him cough up blood before his body shot approximately 20 feet back, bouncing like a beach ball from the incredible blow before finally coming to a stop. Naruto walked over to Zabuza's Zanbatsu, then picked it up closely to examine it. It was a weapon consisting of a large, wide blade attached to an extended, pole-like hilt. It had a wrapped handle about 15 inches long, and the blade had a hole in the shape of a circle in the upper part of the edge, and another semicircular hole in an edge of the lower part. It weighed around 60 pounds at least. Naruto swung the blade around for a few seconds before looking over at the owner of the giant weapon, who was now sitting in a crouching position, holding his stomach. He then threw it in Zabuza's direction, startling him with the thought of being hit by a giant blade, but it landed right in front of him with a thud. Much to his relief. How the hell can he throw that thing like it's nothing? Sakura yelled after seeing Naruto launch the Zanbatsu at crouched Zabuza. Shinaro, Saku-kun is the only one who should be able to do that. Inner Sakura thought. Meanwhile in the dome, quickly thinking on her feet, Haku summoned a water clone, helping her maneuver in the air, out of the ways of the kunai and most of the fireballs. One of them was able to find its way to her abdominal area, sending her flying through one of the mirrors. A few seconds later, Haku regained her composure after being slammed through the now shattered ice mirror. She checked herself briefly, making sure there was no permanent damage done before dodging a barrage of kunai. She sidestepped them easily, tossing a few senbon at the genin in return. She then relaxed a bit before stopped channeling her chakra to the mirrors, causing them to shatter, making all the insects to return to Shino's body through a small hole that appeared on his skin. Looking over at her opponents, she saw them huffing. She was also winded from having to fight 3 high genin or possibly low chunin for some time now, and having to hold the ice mirrors was no small feat. Also that she wasn't going for the kill, which only made it harder to fight. Sasuke was exhausted due to fighting for a long period of time, and Shino was tired because while these colonies of insects were more useful than his regular ones, they do feed on more chakra, and adding manipulation to them was a bit costly to his reserve. Having no time to waste, Haku performed one-handed seals at an incredible speed before shouting, "Suiten, Mizu no Tatsumaki tornado of water." A vortex of water from the river on the bottom of the bridge headed straight toward a defenseless Sasuke who only could stare at the vortex with his dilated Sharingan eyes. The attack was interrupted by another vortex, both jutsu clashing before cancelling each other. Nani? Haku thought, frantically looking around to see who performed the same jutsu as her. Just then the Kakashi appeared in front of Sasuke with his left eye uncovered, revealing a 3-to-mode Sharingan eye to the world. Damn, I don't have the strength to fight him, too. While thinking that she might only be able to pull a few more high-level jutsu before running out of chakra. If I didn't make it on time, Sasuke would have been seriously injured, Kakashi thought, looking towards Sasuke for a second. He seemed like he was about to pass out, and Shino was too far away to make it in time to save him from that destructive jutsu. Shino, take Sasuke and Kiba away from here, Kakashi ordered, earning a nod from Shino. Oh no, you don't, Haku yelled before she sped toward Shino, senbon in hand, ready to impale the upper ram. Fortunately for Shino, Kakashi intercepted her with a clang when kunai clashed with senbon. I can let you do that, Haku-san, for I am your opponent from now till the end, Kakashi stated before he jumped back and took out some kunai, then threw them at her straight on. Haku jumped to the side and had to jump again to avoid another barrage of kunai coming at her before she charged Kakashi, starting a taijutsu fight with Naruto. Damn, where the hell is that bastard? Zabuza mumbled as he got up to pick up his sword. Gaki, you'll regret giving back my sword, and I swear that I will make you regret it, Zabuza said to Naruto. Well then come on, Naruto said, assuming a defensive stance. He was hoping Zabuza would give him a good fight. All his fights during his 3 years trip were lame. Not a single ninja was able to make him release his gravity seals. He won most of his fight without much difficulty, so he didn't even bother releasing it. Well, except one fight where he almost died, but that's for another time. Now he needed to convince Zabuza to join him. Naruto rushed to Zabuza's side, aiming a kick to his midsection only for it to be blocked by the flat side of Zabuza's Zanbatsu, then followed up with a punch to the head only for it to be ducked. Zabuza retaliated with an uppercut with his sword, but was blocked by a mere kunai. Now he would have been surprised if he had the time to, for Naruto need him, sending him skidding back. Now this is much better, wouldn't you agree, Zabuza-san? Naruto asked with a smile. Zabuza smiled back under the bandage in response. Then Naruto saw mist covering the area again, followed by a powerful chakra signature nearby. It was probably as big as Zabuza's, if not larger. He looked back and saw thick mist coming around them at a rapid rate. Looking back at Zabuza, he asked, "Is this one of your friends?" Getting a chuckle out of his future spy. At least he hoped. Isn't this mist jutsu getting old? You do know that I could just blow them away again. Hiya, not this time, brat, the former mist nin said. Oi, what the fuck took you so long? Raiga, he shouted to Shadow, advancing toward them. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then like, subscribe and leave a comment down below. This is Maelstrom signing off.